Hello, I'm Denise Thompson here with the Big Sky Conference, and I have Craig Haley from Stats and Sam Herder from Hero Sports as we announce the 2020 Big Sky Football preseason all-conference team. How are you doing today, gentlemen?
Real well. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, doing good. Thank you so much for including us.
Absolutely. So you two know what it is about Big Sky Football, from the teams, the polls, all the way down to the talented athletes that we have. So let's go ahead and get started with who the preseason quarterback is for the Big Sky, and it is no other than Eric Barrier from Eastern Washington. Is that a surprise for you guys?
Not one bit. I mean, obviously the Big Sky is year to year has so many great quarterbacks, but I mean, this year, you graduated and lost a number of the big ones. Eric's, the biggest one out there, more or less. So I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, I mean, pretty easy choice. I voted for Eric as well. Just a dynamic playmaker. He can make all the throws, and obviously he can escape the pocket as well. And when he tucks the ball and runs, he's probably the fastest guy in the field. So just a nightmare to defend for Big Sky defenses.
All right, now we know the next group that we've always had talented, they're starring in the NFL right now, is the wide receivers in the Big Sky. It looks like Montana takes two of them, with Samuel Akim and Samori Torre, also with Sacramento State taking the third one and Pierre Williams. What about that dynamic trio?
Not going to get much better than that, Denise. I mean, Samori, Torre, I mean, he's the number one receiver as far as in the FCS for yards per game that's returning this year. I mean, he just dynamic, and Samuel Akim had that big year 2 years ago. I mean, Pierre Williams is going to stretch the field for Sac State, so that was an easy choice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, 3 All-American caliber guys right there. I think they all have legit pro potential. I mean, Pierre Williams was the go-to guy for Sacramento State's, really hot offense last year. Then the 2 Montana guys, I mean, that's as good of a 1-2 punch as you can get at the receiver position in the FCS. So 3 quality receivers right there in the Big Sky.
Do you think their play of all 3 of them will change any differently with the new quarterback at the helm for both Montana and for Sacramento State?
That's a great question. I think you're going to still see a similar kind of offense from both teams, high-powered, really take it to the defense. So I do think you're not going to see too big of a change in play in those teams.
Yeah, I agree with Craig on that one. Yep.
Well, they know a quarterback is only as good as his offensive lineman, and we have a set of 6 that are definitely donning this year's preseason all-conference team. We'll go ahead and start with Colin Beaver from Montana, as well as Ben Boss of Weber State.
Well, I mean, Connor really came into his own last year. I mean, Montana's offense was scoring at will. So I think he, at left tackle, he's tremendous. And then, Ben Boss, I mean, he lives up to that name, surname. I mean, this will be his 4th year as a starter. I mean, they're both big guys. I think, they make those offenses go.
The unanimous selection on the offensive line, Lewis Kidd, Montana State. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a number of Montana State offensive linemen on this list, right? Just because they've been so dominant up front. But he's one of several guys on that offensive line. I believe they have 4 starters coming back. He's a really experienced guy. Just a road grader when it comes to that. Really good rushing attack. So well deserved there.
On the offensive line, we also have Tristan Taylor from Eastern Washington and Taylor Tuiasosopo from Montana State. Tell me what you guys think about those 2.
I mean, that's a handful. I mean, mouthful. I mean, obviously, he has a lot of experience, and Sam saw that Montana State offensive line in person and knows how good they are. I mean, the other Taylor, Tristan Taylor, it's great to have him back at Eastern Washington for a 6th year. I mean, to get that extra year from the NCAA because of injuries, it really makes Eastern look different with him back at left tackle.
Last but not least is our other unanimous selection on offensive line, coming in at Ty Whitworth from Weber State.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy on that Weber State offensive line that, I mean, we just know that type of offense for Weber State. They like to be physical. They like to run the football, obviously with Josh Davis there. And Ty is a guy that the NFL scouts really like. There's when it comes to this upcoming NFL draft class, there's a number of offensive linemen that I think have potential to be NFL draft picks. And I think Ty is certainly, his momentum is carrying forward as far as attracting the eyes of NFL scouts.
The tight end this year is going to be Marshall Martin from Sacramento State, while the two running backs will be Josh Davis from Weber State and Elijah Dotson from Sacramento State. What do you think about those three?
I'll tell you what, I'll let Sam talk about the running backs. Marshall Martin, I mean, he just kept getting better as a freshman last year. I mean, that's a difference maker as the season goes along, and a team like Sac State, gets into contention. I mean, nationally, he was in the top 6 for tight ends in receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. I mean, you don't expect that out of a player like that going into the year when you're so young, but that's just a difference maker when you can add a player like that.
Yeah, when it comes to the running backs in the Big Sky, I think as a collection, this is the strongest group of running backs in the FCS. And there were probably 5 guys in the Big Sky that are probably all American worthy. So to narrow it down to 2 is no easy thing to do. But I mean, you start with Josh Davis of Weber State, such an aggressive running style for his size, which is so fun to watch. And then you go over to Elijah Dotson as well, such a great weapon for that offense. Half of his yards from scrimmage are from receiving, the other half are from rushing the ball. So they utilize him in so many different ways, and they are both fantastic choices to have as the top 2 running backs in this conference.
The fullback is going to be Clay Moss, Weber State. Not a shocker there either, as he's been a top fullback in the league for quite a few years. Just what do you think? What does he add to Weber State's game?
I think, Clay, I love fullbacks. I'm glad to see the fullbacks are kind of coming back. And North Dakota State obviously has been using it and winning big. Weber has come to the next level as a kind of a, power over power teams. And Josh Davis is lucky to have, a Clay Moss leading the way. So I like that prototypical big guy. He's 6'1", 225, just powering through you and making that, running tag go. So obviously he's the best out there.
Yeah, can never forget about the fullbacks. I mean, they're so important for a lot of these offenses, and you got to keep that position strong in football. We can't be getting rid of the fullbacks in this game.
Absolutely. And a newly added position at all-purpose. So just for fans to know, for an all-purpose player, you can't be listed as anything else on the all-conference team besides a specialist. And so this year's first preseason one for all-purpose will be B.J. Perkinson from Sacramento State.
BJ is very much like Elijah Dotson for Sac State. I mean, giving you running yards and, the ability to catch the pass out of the backfield. So, to have 2 of them is tremendous for Sac State. So, I think that the voters really hit it on the head with this team. I mean, somebody like a Nick Romano at Idaho is worthy as well in this position. But, BJ, Perkinson is tremendous.
Yeah, the way Coach Taylor uses all of his weapons on offense, whether it is, using them running the ball or catching the ball. They have a lot of, all-purpose guys on their offense, which makes it really fun to watch.
Absolutely. All right. And let's go ahead and move over to the kickers. And it will be Louis Aguilar from Northern Arizona.
Not shocking. I mean, he just had such a big year last year. He barely missed. And when he did, 2 of the 3 he missed were outside 50. So I think, he's the best in the business and never missed a PAT. I mean, he's tremendous.
Yeah, he's accurate. He's got a big leg. I think he hit a couple that were over 50 yards, and he's clutch as well. I think he has 2 game-winning field goals in his career. Then maybe I think there was another one that he sent a game into overtime. So he's got the accuracy, the leg strength, and the clutchness as well, which is, that's what you need if you're going to be a kicker.
All right. Weber State picking up their 5th preseason on the offensive team. Coming in with the punt returner is Rashid Shaheed.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably as good as it gets when it comes to the FCS as a whole. So, just a special weapon to have there, on special teams, and he can flip the field position just like that, and he's a great weapon to have for a team.
You saying that makes me think he could have been either the punt returner or the kick returner. That's how good Rasheed is.
Absolutely. But I think the kick right returner might have something to do with that.
Oh,
This Flowers from Montana wraps up our offensive honors for this season. Talk about just his game when it comes to special teams and how that helps out the Grizz.
I apologize. I'm not going to forget about Malik. He's just a game breaker. He's going to break some, for touchdowns. He's going to give you consistency. That's, the special teams are just so big in college football. Everybody thinks of them as the third thing, but after offense and defense, but it just turns games. And Malik's one of the best in the nation.
When you guys take a look overall of all the names that we've gone through on offense, was there any shockers, things that you knew were going to happen? And does this really show how talented the Big Sky is on offense, knowing that there could have been so many other teams that would have easily made this list?
No, as I mentioned, the voters really kind of nailed it here. And it really starts with Eric Barrier to lose so many, key quarterbacks and to have somebody of his talent. He was fifth in the Walter Payton Award voting last year. I just think the depth is incredible in the Big Sky.
Yeah, I think overall this is an incredibly strong all-conference team. And there's so much depth in this conference as well, where there's maybe some other offensive linemen that certainly I'm guessing had a lot of votes. I'm sure there are several other running backs that got a lot of other votes as well. So just a lot of talent on this first team. But even there are some names out there that didn't make this team that are, if they were in a different conference, they would probably be on that first team. So a ton of talent in the Big Sky this year.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and move over to our preseason all-conference defensive honorees. We'll go ahead and get started at the defensive tackle position, and that'll be Bryce Rogers from UC Davis, as well as Jared Chief from Weber State.
Yeah, big time disruptors there. You look at both of those guys. They're big. Obviously, they're athletic. They can take on double teams if they have to, but they also have that athletic ability to shed some of those double teams and disrupt plays in the backfield with tackles for loss and stuff like that. So there are a lot of really good defensive ends in this conference, but I think those guys will always give credit to the interior guys. Taking some of those double teams to free them up.
No doubt.
Up next, we'll go ahead and move over to the defensive ends, where we have George Tarlis from Weber State, as well as Sacramento State's Via Erickson.
George is tremendous in the sense that we all think back to those 2 interceptions he had against Montana in the snow game. And yet you look, he had 9 sacks last year. And I believe that's the most for any returning in the conference. So, defensive line was stacked for Weber, and he got a little overlooked, but his numbers turned out to be great, and he's very worthy. Josiah Erickson, Sac State, he was opposite, George Obina on the line there and just really came into his own last year as a junior. So I just think those are 2 guys that are going to take the next jump this year because they were on such talented lines that they were a little overlooked at times and really still had great years.
We'll move over to the outside linebacker. We have Nick Eaton from UC Davis, as well as Christian Ellis from Idaho.
Yeah, you look at Ellis there for starters, and he's a guy that is, he's a well-known name, especially at Idaho, and he's a guy that a lot of NFL scouts are looking at and really like. And then Nick Eaton as well on UC Davis. I think UC Davis's defense kind of flew under the radar a little bit. I was able to watch their defense in the Fargo Dome last year, and I was really impressed with it. And Nick is a guy that leads that side of the ball for them. So, at the outside linebacker position, several guys that are well deserving to be on that, and I really like those 2 being named there.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think Nick Eaton, only being a freshman last year, have that athleticism to just change games. And then, somebody like Christian Ellis, who's, from an NFL family. Those guys are just, really take your defense to another level, from the outside.
Up next, we'll go ahead and move over to inside linebacker. We'll Jace Lewis, Montana, as well as Trey Walker from Idaho.
Yeah, Jace, I mean, obviously, he was hardly living in Dante Olson's shadow. I mean, when you get 131 tackles last year, I mean, Dante was the Buck Buchanan Award winner, but Jace was right there as a first team all league pick, and now it's his show, and I just think he'll take it to another level. And then Trey Walker, that linebacker unit at Idaho is great. I mean, he's another guy who went so many tackles. He might have been second in the league, and I just think it's a great year for linebackers in the Big Sky.
Yeah, a lot of casual FCS fans, might just see, oh yeah, Montana loses Dante Olson, that's going to be hard. But I mean, while Dante had 150 some tackles last year, I mean, Jace wasn't that far behind. He had, he was up there in the hundreds as well. So he'll fill in with that role. He plays such an important role on Montana's defense. And then Trey as well for Idaho, another guy that the NFL scouts really like. And just like Craig mentioned there, the core of Idaho linebackers is really, really strong.
Speaking on that, is it a shocker that Idaho picks up to the 4 linebacker spots as we look up who we've had so far, as well as Weber State taking 2 of the 2 defensive lineman positions?
Not at all. I mean, that entire unit is tremendous. It's maybe the deepest unit. I mean, I don't want to get anybody mad in the Big Sky at some of the other schools, but I think Idaho is ready to take that next step this year, and it's led by its linebackers.
Yeah, I had an Idaho fan tweet at me and ask, does Idaho have the best trio of linebackers in the FCS? And it's hard to argue against that when you look at just the the NFL potential they have. You can look at the stats, you can look at their accolades. I think those 3 as a whole are as good as it gets in the FCS.
All right, let's move over to where we've now bunched them together. So we now have the defensive backs. And up first is Anthony Adams from Portland State, leading the Big Sky last year, passes defended, leading the nation. What do you think about his play?
I'll tell you what, I think the Big Sky, everybody's always thinking about, going up and down the field scoring and the quarterbacks, but it's a great year for defense. And Anthony Adams is one of the best out there. As you mentioned, he led the nation in pass defended. He's still young and getting better, but so athletic. And I just think he's right there in the conversation for Player of the Year defensively in the Big Sky.
Especially right after him having such a successful season last year, being a Buck Buchanan Award, right there at the end when he was getting the finalists and getting the votes. And as a sophomore, right? Showing how young and talented he was now entering his junior year. Up next, we'll go ahead and add Robbie Hauk from Montana and Eddie Heckard from Weber State.
Yeah, I mean, starting with Hauk there, I mentioned how important that middle linebacker position is for that defense, but the kind of the stuff they throw on Robbie's plates, and kind of that weird defense they play, he's another guy that racks up a lot of tackles on that defense, and then Eddie as well. I mean, you look at last year at this time, we had so many question marks about Weber State's defense just because they were replacing so many guys, but then they had some returners coming back, but then other guys stepping up as well. And he's a key part of that defense, and they return a ton of starters this year. So I think Weber State we're looking at, probably the best defense in the Big Sky, and probably, a top 5, top 3 defense in the FCS as a whole.
Yeah, I think, when those teams win, it's those two, Eddie and Robbie are probably having a big game. They seem to be big game players. That stands out to me.
All right. Our next 2 on the list will be from Sacramento State, Darren Bland, and Devin King from UC Davis.
Yeah, Devin King, I mean, I'll tell you what, I always go back to that San Diego game at the beginning of the year last year. We made that goal line stop. I mean, he's like somebody who's always going to get that solo tackle. And then, I think he's a great player. I mean, it's certainly a big year, across the conference in the backfield. I mean, Darren, playing the cornerback, he had that huge game against Montana, and I just think that the depth there at defensive back is strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, King was another guy that I came away really impressed with when I was watching him last year, and then Bland as well. I just recently wrote about him. Just really like his size at 6 foot, but he has great speed as well, great athleticism. I know he ran and jumped for the track and field team there his first couple seasons on campus there. So just an all around really, really good athlete to have, kind of locking down that side of the field.
Absolutely. Definitely 2 sport athletes going up and down the Big Sky roster in football. So they're definitely trying to show their talents in many sports. We have 2 more positions left. Up next will be the punter with Northern Arizona's DJ Arnson.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Northern Arizona is just stacked in the kicking game this year. And DJ, I mean, not only does he have the big foot, he's accurate. I mean, I think he only had 1 touchback the entire season last year, if I'm not mistaken. And, kicking there in the Sky Dome, I mean, that's just, he's a weapon for sure.
Absolutely. So now, special teams, Portland State's Emmanuel Digby.
Yeah, I really like when conferences honor, just a special teams guy, because that's such an important phase of the game, whether it is, running down as a gunner on kickoff or punter, or on punt team, whether it is, blocking field goals or, contributing, where you have to. And he has such a big impact in that phase of the game for Portland State. So it's well earned for him. And I think, I think a guy like that, they take so much pride in what they do. So I'm sure, he's very happy to get honored, because, the stats might not be there when you just, look at overall stats for a football team. His stats might not show up, but the impact he has on the football team is really big time.
So there you have it, folks. That is our offensive and defensive preseason all-conference teams for the 2020 Big Sky football season. Now it is time to talk about our preseason most valuable players. Up first, the 2020 Big Sky football preseason offensive MVP goes to Eric Barrier, quarterback at Eastern Washington. Congratulations, Eric. Craig and Sam, you talked a little bit about Eric earlier when we talked about him being the quarterback on display, but just talk a little bit more about his game and how he was just so close to even earning the Walter Payton Award and taking Eastern Washington to that next level.
Hey, you know what? Samori Toure and Josh Davis. I mean, there's some great choices. I'm not surprised the Big Sky went with Eric Barrier in the voting. I mean, he's just a complete quarterback. I mean, he can run the ball. I mean, we think back to that, 85-yard run or whatever it was a couple of years ago, and we think of all those touchdowns he threw against Maine. But, he's just a field general. I mean, he really limits interceptions. I mean, he keeps the ball moving. I mean, I think Eastern Washington is one of the most fascinating teams out there this year, just because they fell short of the playoffs last year off of, the championship game appearance 2 years ago. And, you didn't want to play them last year, even though they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that's just a good team. So I think Eric Barrier is a great choice for player, the MVP preseason.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I remember 2 years ago when Gage got hurt, and we all knew Eric Barrier was kind of the next guy to step up. But, as just a sophomore, we were kind of going, all right, what does this mean for Eastern Washington? And then, of course, they go on the run there, make it to the national championship game. And then Eric, he stepped up his game even more last year. Great statistics. He's just an absolute gamer. He's fun to watch with some of the throws he makes where, he lets off a pass and, it's a little unbalanced. You weren't sure where he's going with it. You're kind of going, oh, this doesn't look good. And all of a sudden, he has a completion down the field. So even though sometimes he is a little bit unorthodox, from his throwing platform, he just makes plays, whether it is with his arm or his legs.
Absolutely. And now it is time to announce the 2020 Big Sky football preseason defensive most valuable player. And drum roll, please. It goes to Jace Lewis, linebacker from Montana. Craig and Sam, tell us about Jace's game.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I mentioned earlier, the role of the middle linebackers in Montana's defense are so important. And he's going to have to, step up his game even more. With Dante Olson having such a great career and a great season last year, he was kind of the household name when it came to just the FCS as a whole. But, Jace, he was racking up tackles as well last year, and he's going to have to step up, with this play even more because, he may have, I don't know if he flew under the radar last year, but just the fact that, he was next to Dante Olson, I'm sure a lot of teams had Dante scouted and, told their offensive lineman, hey, you got to climb to the next level and get this guy blocked or else our offense isn't going to be able to do anything. Well, now Jace is going to be in that role and he's going to have the eyes of a lot of offenses on him because he's such a, he's just all over the field. He can hit you hard, but he's got great speed as well for his size, where he can play sideline to sideline. So, in my opinion, there are a lot of great defensive players in the Big Sky Conference, but I think Jace was, kind of a lock to get this award.
Yeah, I think Montana has become, linebacker U in the FCS, and Jace follows right along. I found myself this offseason using a picture of Jace flying in, taking down a quarterback. I've used this photo a couple times in stories, and I think that kind of personifies him because he gets in the backfield. That's, he's a disruptor. He's not just making tackles downfield. He's aggressive and gets there. So I agree. Sam's right. It's a great choice for a preseason player of the year. There's a couple others too, but Jace is right there, among the best.
So today we've talked about the talent up and down the Big Sky, on the offense, on the defense. We're about to head into student athlete interviews in a little bit. Definitely looking forward to hearing what they have to say. But just one more thought, Craig and Sam, on the Big Sky preseason team of the year, which is Weber State.
Well, 3 straight titles. They deserve to be the favorite. But boy, you're talking like 4 or 5 teams here that are, top 25 and, to be in the top 10, like last year you had 4 and 4 playoff seeds. Weber's, has to replace their quarterback, obviously, but they have so much back. Jay Hill has gotten them to another level. They're one of the elite powers and Montana and Montana State are back strong. Sac State has to overcome the loss of Kevin Thompson and Eric Berry leading Eastern. The depth is great in the Big Sky, but Weber, I just think Jay Hill has really, built that team and the talent they bring in. They're hard nosed and you leave a game playing them just all beat up because that's how strong they are.
Yeah, I think the depth in this conference is really strong. I think the top 5 especially are really strong. And I think Weber State's, I think they're starting to they should be gaining that respect. I still feel like they fly under the radar a little bit nationally, maybe just because of the style of play. And, there's nothing sexy about how they play, but that's how Jay Hill likes it. The proof is right there in the win column and, their success in the playoffs and just with the amount they have coming back. Yes, they do have to replace their starting quarterback, but overall, you look at the 2 deep, you look at, just the roster from top to bottom, it seems like this is going to be Jay Hill's best team he's had at Weber State since taking over. And that's, scary to think about considering, they have a run of Big Sky titles here and have made deep playoff runs these last few years.
There's only one more step for them in the playoff rounds. That's getting to Frisco.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the conversation today. I'm Denise Thompson from the Big Sky. We have Craig Haley here from Stats, Sam Herder from Hero Sports, and continue the conversation on Twitter following our Big Sky football account at Big Sky FB. And don't forget to follow us with the hashtag Big Sky FB Virtual Kickoff. Thank you, and we'll talk to you later.
We're ready for 2020 Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff Student Athlete Interviews. I'm joined by Montana wide receiver Samori Torre, Northern Colorado wide receiver Noah Soul, and Portland State quarterback Davis Alexander. Welcome and thanks for joining me today to talk Big Sky football. We're going to jump right into our first set of questions. This first one is for all of you. What makes the Big Sky Conference such a competitive league? And Davis, we can start with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we got a bunch of great facilities. You know, I think we set 3 or 4 top 8 seeds to the playoffs last year. I've heard people say it's the SEC of the FCS football, and, you know, I'm proud to be a part of it. And I think we got a great group of teams, and I think every year we have a bunch of teams that step up to the plate and contend for a title, and I think that speaks to the competitiveness of the conference.
Absolutely. Noah, that same question for you. What makes the Big Sky Conference such a competitive league?
I think the biggest thing is just you never know who can win. Every week is just a new competition, and there's never really a downscale of teams in the Big Sky, whether you're going up to Pocatello or up to Montana. It's never a given win ever on any Saturday. So I think that's just the biggest piece of the Big Sky.
Absolutely. Samori, what do you have to say about that one?
I agree with both of them. You know, the biggest thing is that, you know, every week you look at your schedule that's in conference, and there's never just a gimme win. You know, no matter who you're playing, you're always going to have to, you know, work hard for your victory. And also, you know, like Davis said, you know, we had half of the bids for the playoffs last year from the Big Sky. You know, I believe we had the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th seed. So if that doesn't speak to the competitiveness of the Big Sky, I don't know what will.
Absolutely. Now, Samori, the Grizz had an impressive playoff run last year. What was it like for you and your teammates to get Montana back in the postseason?
Man, that was amazing. More than anything, it was a long time coming, you know, because, you know, when I was getting recruited here and, you know, coming to Montana, you know, making the playoffs was just the standard. You know, that was something that was normal, something that, you know, we all expected within the program. I knew that before I even stepped on campus. So, you know, my first couple of years, the fact that we were always, you know, like one game away from making the playoffs and it didn't happen, you know, that was kind of depressing. But, you know, last year was a long time coming, and, you know, the fans were just so electric. It was just a great experience.
Now, Noah, what part of your game have you been working on the most since last season?
I think a big piece for me is just my press release. I've been working on a lot this off season. It's been hard since obviously we can't be within 6 feet of anybody, but I've just been kind of doing it on air. Talking to my new receiver coach, Max McCaffrey, has been a lot of help. We've been on Zoom calls a lot. So just getting in, doing that. And then I don't know if I'm going to be punting again this year, but if I am, I've been getting ready for that too. So whatever I can do.
Awesome. Now, Davis, coming into your 4th year, how has your game grown in the offensive system?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main part, you know, as a quarterback and, you know, being a leader of the team is just your leadership. I think the more experience you get, you know, the more blitzes you see, the more coverages you see, the more, you know, you can audible. It shows, you know, your team trusts in you. And I think that's a huge part of being a quarterback. And I think my experience is, you know, led to me and you know, improve my stats and improved our wins. And I think that's huge part of, you know, going into my 4th and final year.
Now, a question for all of you. What creative ways have you come up with to stay in shape the past few months? Davis, we can start with you on that one.
Just doing anything I can. You know, luckily I've been able to work out at a couple gyms that where we've been able to social distance and stay 6 feet away. And I've gotten some great work in with, you know, some serious NFL players at high caliber. And that's been huge for me. Just not even talking physical aspect, but just the mental game and figuring out what the difference is between levels and how I can improve my game and anything with that. So that's been huge for me.
That's great. Samori, what about for you?
I mean, you know, the main thing for me is just I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been very creative with it. I just go with what I know, which is, push-ups, sit-ups, and just going out to the field and getting some, cone work, or maybe running some sprints, doing some long distance jogs. I'm really just sticking to the basics.
There you go. Sometimes that's the best thing to do. Noah, what about for you? What creative ways have you come up with to stay in shape the past few months?
Luckily, my girlfriend, her parents gave me a little barbell, so we were out there in Nebraska for the quarantine, so I was able to bring it back when I got to Greeley. So I've been doing that for a while. Just as many lunges, squats, push-ups, running as much as I can do to keep me busy and just get in better shape.
There you go. Now, sticking along with this theme of the past few months that we've had, how have you all been able to stay in touch with your team during these unconventional times? Davis, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I mean, obviously teammates are my best friends, right? So we stay in touch, whether it's football, whether it's just, hanging out, like we're always, we're on FaceTime together. But besides that, I mean, I'm sure these guys could say the same, that we got Zoom team meetings and stuff like that. We're all interacting with each other, It's weird times, obviously. None of us have ever gone through it, but I think, leaders of the team got to step up and make sure everyone's doing what they need to be doing. And, yeah.
Samori, what about for you? How have you stayed in touch with your team?
Same thing as everybody else, mainly like as a wide receiver group, we've had a couple of Zoom meetings to where we can, keep in touch and talk more football aspect. But, other than that, we're lucky to live in a day and age where it's so easy to stay in contact with people who may not even be in the same, state as you. So with my teammates, they're my best friends. We've been on FaceTime, Snapchat, all that, just being able to keep in touch.
There you go. Noah, what about for you and your teammates?
Yeah, so Coach McCaffrey's just having us Zoom once a week, and then his son Max, who's our receiver coach, we just get on Microsoft Teams and we're on there talking football, talking the new offense and everything, trying to stay connected. And then I'm lucky to be back at school, so I'm with some of my roommates. We've been quarantined together for a while, so just hanging out with them, playing video games, and just trying to get through these weird times.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that you're with your roommates. Samori, what has been the biggest motivating factor for you and the wide receivers group this offseason?
Honestly, just, the success that we had last year, not just me, but the rest of the wide receivers, we've all really come a long way, since we've gotten here. So last year for all of us was honestly just a really big confidence booster to show, because we always knew what we could do. But, now that everybody else is starting to see, how many weapons we have, it's starting to look really good.
Noah, how hard is it acclimating to a new head coach with such an unorthodox offseason?
Yeah, that's really weird to me. I mean, we had 4 practices for spring ball, so we didn't even really get to get a feel of how he ran practices. It was such limited time. So, I mean, again, we've just been connected through Zoom and through Microsoft Teams, trying to get all these plays down, the installs and everything, and trying to build a connection. It's hard to have a connection with a coach when you don't see him at all and it's just over the internet. But again, especially as position groups in offense, we've been trying to build those relationships together as from coach to player. So I think it's been good. It's just, again, it's just weird. We haven't had much time with them.
Right. Now, Davis, what will it take for Portland State to make a run for the playoffs this fall?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure these guys can attest to it too, but a lot of these games, especially in the Big Sky, come down to one make or break play that can totally change the impact of the game. We just got to be able to finish games. I mean, we were up on some pretty good teams this year. Montana being, a great example. It's a heck of a team. They went on a deep playoff run. We're up on them at half, and, we can't find a way to finish it. So, we're, a couple plays away from being going from 5 wins to eight wins. So, getting in the playoffs. But, yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game. You got to be able to finish. You got to be able to close it out and execute. So, yeah.
Now, for all of you, what are your goals and hopes for the upcoming season? Noah, we'll start with you.
I think my goal, we want to have a winning season for sure this year, and we want to come out and shock the Big Sky this year. I think with a new coach, with a new mindset. It's going to be a different year we really do want to change the perspective of our team and of our school. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. We just want to come out and shock the Big Sky this year.
Samori, your goals and hopes for the upcoming season?
There's really only one, and it's that ring. I'm sure everybody, can say that, but, we really feel like we have the weapons this year. We have a great group of seniors, great group of leaders, and especially with building off that momentum from last year. Yeah, we lost a few pieces, but we also gained, pieces in the positions that we lost. So, coming off of last year, we're just kind of trying to keep that momentum going and, hopefully win the Big Sky, because last year, we came up short barely, and it really left a bad taste in all of our mouths. So we're trying to get that right.
All right. Now, Davis, your goals and hopes for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, we want the Big Sky championship. We feel like, we have the talent coming back, definitely. We got an All-American on defense and, heck of a receiver core coming back. There's only one thing in mind, it's win the Big Sky. And I think that's everyone's goal. So.
Absolutely. Now, Samori, do you feel pressure to live up to your impressive junior year?
Not at all. Honestly, it's the complete opposite, because if anything, I felt a lot of pressure going into last year because, my redshirt sophomore season was, disappointing for me. And I'm not going to lie, I lost a little bit of confidence, just because I wasn't performing as well as I could have. So I felt like my junior year was like my make it or break it season. Like I need to prove myself now. And I feel like I did that, So now it was just a big confidence booster for me. And now I'm just ready to go out and play.
What was the biggest component in you relieving that pressure on yourself?
I don't even really know. Mainly, I feel like, my redshirt freshman year, I was in the slot mostly. I was one of those slot guys. And then my redshirt sophomore year, they moved me to outside. So that was kind of my first year on the outside. So it took a lot to get accustomed to, because in the slot, you're used to having a lot of space, being able to work. So my redshirt sophomore year, I was kind of getting jammed off the line. I wasn't keeping in contact with corners. So really just expanding my game. And usually in the off season, I was just working all on outside. Press release. How to creating contact and getting open is really just what I worked on.
Now, Noah, what is the biggest challenge facing Northern Colorado this season?
I think our biggest challenge is, I guess I would say two right now. We need someone to fill Jacob Knipp's spot. I mean, he's been our quarterback for 6 years now, and that's a big piece, losing a guy like that, such a big time leader for us. And one of my best friends. I mean, it's a big thing to lose. And then this is our third offense in 3 years. And that's another big piece these guys can attest to how hard and the little ins and outs of an offense are, whether it's converting a route, converting during a different or checking a play, whatever it is. It's just having to learn that is a lot on a plate right now, especially with no spring ball and not getting the reps. So I think those two things are going to be the biggest challenges this year coming up. But I think we're going to be just fine.
Now, Davis, what gives you confidence in the offensive personnel that returns?
Yeah, we got, a bunch of O-linemen returning, guys who have played all different positions on the O-line as well. And then I think our receiving core is one of the best, if not the best, in the Big Sky. I know I got 2 receivers in the room. I'm sorry, fellas, but I think we got, some of the best receivers in the Big Sky. We lose Charlie, a boss of a tight end last year. But I think we got someone who could fill his role. And we also have a bunch of young, but we've got a bunch of hungry backs. And I think, they're ready for a big season.
There we go. Now, another question for all of you. What has been the most difficult part of this offseason? Noah, we'll start with you.
Just not being there. We've been here for about 4 weeks now, and that's about it. Just not having spring ball, not having lifting and running and all that stuff with your team. That's just been the biggest piece to missing out, especially again with the new coaching staff. Just missing out on spring ball. That's tough. that's just how it is. It's just tough, but everyone's going through it right now.
So Maury, what about you? The most difficult part of this off season?
I have to agree with Noah in saying, losing spring ball was easily, the worst part about the most difficult part about this off season, because spring ball is the time, where you're just grinding. And that's where you make some of the biggest jumps. You try to fix everything you did wrong from the previous season, and you try to get right for the next season. And, with how limited our practices were, that kind of set everybody back. So I feel like, fall camp is going to be a little bit tougher, at first, because everybody's going to be, a little bit behind. But, we're looking forward to it.
Davis, what about you?
Yeah, for me personally, I was coming off a torn labrum injury from, that happened during the season. So just the rehab and, the situation with everything going on there, that was a little difficult, but I feel like I'm back and 100%. And then just as far as the team goes, I mean, now we know, but like we didn't know when someone was going to come back, when we could get on the field together, if we could even get on the field together. That was weird. We had to get creative. We had to, duck off and go to some other fields and figure it out on our own.
Right. Now, so Maury, you are in your senior season. What have been some of the biggest improvements to the Grizz program since Coach Houck's return?
I really think one of the biggest improvements we made is just being more disciplined. All of our team has just come a lot closer, and we're starting to, hold each other responsible, if we're not living up to the standard. Because, when Coach Houck got here, something he really emphasized was just hold yourself to a high standard. If you don't hold yourself to a high standard, you're not going to, succeed in anything. So just basically raising the standard, and being able to, be responsible on the field, off the field. That's something that I feel like made us improve a lot.
Now, you mentioned that advice of holding yourself to a higher standard. This question is for all of you. What is the best piece of advice that you have received that has helped you the most in college football? So, Maury, we can start with you on that one.
Ooh, that's a tough one, but the first thing that comes to my mind, is watch film. I feel like personally that's something that I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the amount of film study that I did, because just being able to get in there and just get all the mental reps in out of the way, watching whatever defensive back or defensive scheme you're going to go up against really just gives you a huge advantage when you're going into the game.
Davis, what about for you, the best piece of advice you've received?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say staying even kill. Football is such a game of emotion, and you could be a fourth stringer one year, and injuries or whatever, or your improvement, and you could be starting the next year, or later on in that season. Game changes, as Coach Barnum would say, and you got to be ready for any situation.
Noah, what's the best piece of advice you've received?
Just trust the process. My redshirt freshman year, I snapped my leg in half against Southern Utah, and that took me down a lot. And then I just had a couple coaches tell me just trust the process. And I came back and started my next year. So it's just, I think that's the biggest advice is just trust the process. It's going to happen one way or the other. Just keep working.
Noah, another question for you. Northern Colorado had a lot of injuries at the quarterback position in the past. How did those unfortunate circumstances force you to change your play?
I think as a receiver, just the ball spin coming off a quarterback's hand is completely different. So I'll go back to my redshirt sophomore year. We had three quarterbacks, Eaton, Connor, and Nip all playing, and the ball just spun differently off their hands. So I think the biggest thing for me was whoever was playing that week, I would stay after practice and catch balls from them, just because, like I said, the ball spin just comes completely different from every quarterback.
Now, Davis, how helpful is it for you as a quarterback to have playmakers like Anthony Adams stepping up on defense?
Yeah. Fortunately, Anthony's my roommate, so he's like one of my best friends, and I mean, it goes even deeper than his performance. He's a great leader. You know, he was voted captain as a sophomore. He just makes me better, whether it's, you know, going up against him in practice or, you know, us just chilling at the house. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've watched games together and, you know, on TV, root sport games, and we're just like, you know, breaking down the game, and it's very cool. But, you know, his performance speaks for himself. I think he broke the FCS record for pass deflections in a season. He's a boss.
That's fantastic. Now, a question for all of you. Which team are you always fired up to play? Some more, you can go first.
I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what I'm going to say, but it has to be Montana State. You know, the electricity, you know, whether we play them here or in Bozeman, you know, is just unmatched. And, you know, that rivalry is something I never really understood, you know, before I got here. You know, even when I redshirted, you know, it kind of didn't really resonate with me. But, you know, once I played in that game, all it took was like a few snaps, and I knew, like, this is one of the biggest rivalries in college sports, and I never want to lose to them again.
Noah, what about you? What team are you always fired up to play?
For me, it's either NAU or Portland State. Both of those just got some dirty players on the defensive side, and I kind of like that. So I enjoy playing those schools. I got some friends on NAU that I play against, so I like doing that. Yeah, those are my two favorite, I think.
Davis, what about you?
I think either of the Montana schools. You know, they usually have great defenses. Definitely a challenge. Two respected programs. And then the juice and the intensity that they come out with, you know, it gets me fired up. I love it. And you know, they both have great offenses as well. And it's, you know, becomes even bigger of a challenge, you know, trying to outplay their offense. You know, I live for that. I live for that competitive fire. And then, I mean, their stadiums are awesome. You know, the great fans. Yeah, I'd say the Montanas.
Now, earlier I asked you all the best piece of advice that you have received, but now I would like to hear the best piece of advice that you can share to younger players on your teams. Noah, we'll start with you.
I think a big piece of advice is don't be afraid to come in and have a voice. I think a lot of freshmen, I was like this. I came in and thought I need to just be in the back seat. I can't say nothing. They're not going to listen to me. But I think they need to understand that their voices are heard through the upperclassmen and the people that have played and have experience. I mean, we want to hear new things. We want to learn different. We always want to continue to grow. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just come in with a voice.
That's great advice. Samori, the best piece of advice that you have for some of the younger guys on your team?
The best piece of advice I can give is just to never make the moment bigger than it is. And that's something that I felt like I did, when I was a freshman, is in front of all these thousands of fans, what am I going to do? I can't mess up or everybody's going to see me. But as soon as I realized, it's just football. It's what you've been playing your whole life. And, you practice every day. It's just football. Just go out there and play. Excellent advice. Davis, that same question for you.
Yeah, I'd say the weight room. You'll see your body transform, your game will transform. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen, all around every single conference where they aren't working hard, and then they get into the season and they end up getting injured. It's for your own safety, because there's guys out there working 3 times, 4 times harder than you if you're not doing what you need to be doing. So you gotta live for the weight room. You gotta live, to be up at 5:30, get to weights, and get your work in for 2 hours.
Definitely important. So Maury, what is the best part about the Grizz community?
I would just say how invested they are, in football. That's something I noticed, immediately when I was on my visit here. When I visited here back when I was a senior in high school, it was just evident. Everywhere we went, people would be like, "Oh, you guys play for the Grizz? Oh, go Grizz!" And it's just I've never really been a part of a community like that, because there's no other professional sports teams here. So just how much they truly care about football and how much it means to them, that means a lot to me.
That's fantastic. Now, Noah, what do you like the most about being a Northern Colorado Bear?
Oh, that's a lot. I think honestly, just the environment around me has made me grow so much. Coming back home from the Bay Area, California, it's just I've never seen the mountains before like this. I've been a beach boy, but now I love going up to the mountains and doing stuff like that, going camping, all that kind of stuff. So I think just being up here, being in this environment, Colorado, you can't beat. It's got everything, beautiful weather. I think that's probably the best thing about up here.
There you go. Now, Davis, what makes you most proud of being a Viking?
I love being in downtown in the city. Endless opportunities to do whatever you want, like deeper than football. You could go out and find a job like that. There's, a ton of businesses, different connections, people, a lot of money in the city, right? And so there's, endless opportunity, I feel like. And then I think our coaching staff truly means, the best for each and every one of its players. I think they come find us in a drop of a nickel, if we needed something, we could call them at any time. I think that can take a program, speaks volumes to the program, I should say.
Absolutely. Well, now it's time to answer some more relaxed questions. So the first question for you all is, who has the best uniforms in the Big Sky? Noah, we'll start with you.
I'm going to say Southern Utah just because my high school is red and black, and I love red and black, so I would say Southern Utah.
All right, Samori.
I mean, I'm biased, but I'm going to go with the Grizz. Honestly, ever since I got here, I love that maroon look. I just wish we had a few more alternate jerseys. I think we could really pull some cool stuff off. But yeah, I like our jerseys.
What would you like to see? You're saying alternate jerseys. What do you think you guys could pull off?
I would like an all black. I would like an all black alternate uniform. I think that would be really dope.
We all want an all black.
Yeah.
Davis, who do you think has the best uniforms in the Big Sky?
I'm going Weber State for sure. They have the all blacks too.
Yeah.
That purple and gray, and obviously they got the white too. Those jerseys are pretty smooth.
Now, where is your favorite place to play, Davis?
Montana, 100%.
All right, Samori, your favorite place to play?
I'm biased again. Look, I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not going to say the Grizz or everything, but Montana is definitely my favorite place to play as well.
All right, Noah.
Northern Arizona, for sure.
That's a good one.
Now, who in the Big Sky has the coolest mascot? Noah.
I'm not going to say NAU because I hate that thing. I hate them chopping the lumber. That's the most annoying thing ever. But probably Idaho State. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, Benny the Bengal.
Yeah.
Samori, that's mascot in the Big Sky.
The Grizz. No, I'm just playing. I was actually gonna say Idaho State as well. I don't know what it is, but that Bengal's pretty cool.
All right, Davis.
I'm going Idaho State as well.
Really? Wow. Okay. All right. Now, who has the most interesting fan base? Samori.
I'm gonna have to go with either Idaho State or Weber State, and I feel like for both of those, it's because the student section is right behind, the visitors bench. So either every time we play Idaho State or Weber State, the fans are just all in our ears. You can hear them clearly, and they're saying all types of things.
Noah, what do you think? Most interesting?
I think I would agree with him on the Weber State. They're right behind us, and they're kind of annoying. So,
Davis.
I got Idaho State and Montana. Idaho State their literally student section is over your sideline, and you can hear everything. And then Montana, they're just so invested there. You can hear what they're saying, and it makes football so great.
Now, who is the best or most dynamic player in the conference you've gone up against? Davis, we'll start with you.
I'll go with Samori and Eric Berrier. Two guys that, can't take your eye off of. You got to make your game plan around those two, or else, it's going to be a long day for your defense. I think Samori, I think he broke the single game FCS record that Randy Moss had in the playoffs last year. That was awesome. Great to see you guys putting on for our conference, and always root for our conference. And then Eric Berrier, I think he was a Walter Payton Award guy. I think he was in the running for it, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
Now, Samori, what about you? The best or most dynamic player you've gone up against?
I'm also gonna have to go Eric Berrier. He's a really good player. Just the fact any quarterback that can run, as well as throw the ball is something that you always have to just be aware of. You always have to game plan around.
Noah?
I got two. I don't know number 15's name from Montana State though. I mean, that kid, I think he led rushing yards against us and led tackles. And then I would say my boy Antoine Custer from Eastern Washington. Obviously, he's graduated now, but I think he was just explosive and dynamic.
Now, last question for you all. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? Noah, you can go first.
NAU, no doubt. NAU.
Samori?
I'll take any dub, in the Big Sky Conference, just because it's a great conference. But I would say Weber State, especially last year, when it was a matchup where, top 5 matchup, number 3 versus number 5 in the country, and we were at home, and you just always know they're going to bring it. And also when we play Weber State, we know we're going to get a lot of man coverage, and that's music to my ears.
Davis, which team do you enjoy beating the most?
I think I got to say Montana. When we went into Montana a couple of years ago in that atmosphere, that was, one of the coolest games I've ever been a part of. So, say Montana.
There we go. Well, thank you, Samori, Noah, and Davis for joining me on the Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. It is always a pleasure. We're ready for the 2020 Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff Student Athlete Interviews. I'm joined by Montana State offensive lineman Lewis Kidd, Northern Arizona wide receiver Stacy Chukwumeze, and Southern Utah wide receiver Landon Meesum. Welcome and thanks for joining me today to talk Big Sky football. We'll get started with our first set of questions. This question is for all of you. What makes the Big Sky Conference such a competitive league? And Lewis, we can start with you on that question.
All right. So what makes the Big Sky such a competitive league? I'd for sure have to say that it's just kind of every year it kind of resets. Not one team just dominates the league every year. I think of Sac State, for example, like a couple years ago, they were kind of middle of the pack. And then last year, they were like a completely different team. And I think that's what makes it fun and competitive, is just that you never know what you're going to get from a team a specific year, and anybody can beat anybody pretty much any given day. So,
right, you can't write off anyone in this league. Stacey,
right.
what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, just continuing off that, pretty much what he said. It's not like you see like Clemson and Alabama in the championship every year. You know, it can be a different school every year. So I feel like that's gives a lot of motivation for different teams to step up. A lot of new players, coaching changes all over the league. So you never know what you're gonna get. So I feel like that makes us competitive.
Absolutely. Landon, that same question for you.
Yeah, I like what both Stacey and Lewis said. I just think that there's so many different approaches like to the game and teams. There's run heavy teams, pass heavy teams. And I think that's what just keeps it interesting and competitive, is there's so many different ways to play the game, and we have all of those styles in the conference.
Absolutely. Now, Lewis, what did playing in the playoffs last season mean to you and your teammates?
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. It was everything to us. You know, obviously ended a little bit earlier than what we would have hoped for. But that's kind of how it goes for anyone that doesn't win it all. But I mean, it was a lot of fun, great experience, great to be able to go against different people and different conferences and stuff, and kind of around the nation. And it was great to be able to spend those few extra weeks with your teammates, with your brothers, and sending out those seniors the right way.
Absolutely. Now, Stacey, what part of your game would you like to improve the most coming into this new season?
I just feel like, as a team, I feel like we need to do a better job finishing games. I feel like we was in a lot of games that, we were right there, either up or tied going into the fourth. We just got to find a way to finish them last minutes, and we'll have a whole different
Landon, what do you enjoy the most about playing college football?
I mean, it may sound a little bit cliche, but just like being able to go out there and compete. We work so hard for each and every game, but the feeling when you get to come out on top after a game is great, and there's nothing like it.
Now, another question for all of you. What creative ways have you come up with to stay in shape the past few months? Lewis, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been affected by this virus and stuff, and everyone's had all these different rules and stuff. At the beginning, my house, I have a few football players I live with. We kind of accumulated some things, barbells, dumbbells, a bunch of different stuff, and we were able to actually set up a almost legit weight room for a while there. Then we kind of returned everything, and now it's kind of just very bare minimum stuff. But yeah, I mean, we were able to kind of keep up and kind of be able to keep building strength. And then luckily we've got a very nice, like, big turf field pretty close to our house. So just kind of jog down there and get whatever conditioning or running speed drills, whatever it is. And, just basically getting anything you can, push-ups, sit-ups, throwing heavy stuff around, moving, trying to push cars around, like whatever it is, just trying to find creative ways and also making it fun, because it's like that's pretty much all you can do.
Right, absolutely. Now, Stacey, what about you?
Well, I would say we doing a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, basically lifting anything we can find in the house. Many fridges, pushing cars around. We got a good turf field too, so a couple of us guys, actually majority of the team goes out there following the guidelines, of course, doing our little thing, doing what we can, working drills, working catching the ball, linemen doing their thing, defensive linemen, everybody like that. So I feel like we had a pretty good system of staying healthy, and we still doing working out and staying in shape.
Landon, what about for you?
I mean, pretty similar to Lewis. We didn't have any barbell or anything to get, but we had 5-gallon water jugs that we could use, and different towels and rope workouts that we were trying to do. Kind of the same thing, just running on fields around close to us, trying to do the best we can to stay in shape.
Now, going along with the times that we're in, how have you been able to stay in touch with your team in the past few months? And this is a question for all of you, but Landon, we'll start with you on it.
I mean, we've had Zoom meetings and just conversations on the app we use to talk with each other, and just trying to I mean, call each other, make sure everyone's doing all right, staying in shape if they need any help with anything, just trying to, I mean, contact with other players every day as much as we can.
What about for you and your team, Stacy?
I'll say we're a pretty close team, so we pretty much, there's a lot of us talking all the time. As a position group, we have Zoom meetings every day. Other than that, when you go out on the field, you're pretty much going to see like everybody else eventually. So, you know, we chop it up, make sure everybody's healthy, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, stay in shape. So I feel like we have a pretty good camaraderie.
That's great. Lewis, how have you stayed in touch with your team these past few months?
Yeah, I'd say very similar to these guys. Everything's pretty much virtual. Zoom meetings, you know, FaceTime, whatever it is, Snapchat, texting, calling. We play video games, so talking through that and just kind of still being able to compete against each other and stuff has been fun. And, you know, I'd say that's the extent of how we've been able to communicate and whatnot.
What is the go-to video game for you guys?
Call of Duty.
Okay, I see you laughing. Do you have a game too?
I got a Madden 2K.
All right, there you go. There you go.
Hey.
What about you, Landon? Are you playing video games at all?
I haven't been much, but I know a bunch of the team has been playing Call of Duty as well.
There you go. All right, so Lewis, what is missing from your college resume that you hope to achieve this year?
I would say just I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, you kind of hope for and want for, but I'd say as an overall, I think a championship would be something that would really just kind of put the cherry on top for me, as best as I can say it.
There you go. Now, Stacy, what has been the biggest motivating factor for you and the other wide receivers this offseason, knowing that Case Cookus has graduated?
I mean, the way we look at it, we have our quarterback room is still fantastic. We have 3 incoming freshmen. We have Jeff, Keandre, Keith, and an incoming freshman, Nico, who can all step up and make that role. And there's a lot of talk saying that, like, you know, we don't have a quarterback. We don't know what you guys are going to do. But that just goes down to what they were saying last year for our receiver group. All 3 of us pretty much knew, and none of us threw with Case at all. We had no connection with him, and we succeeded during the season. So I just feel like, you know, we put in the work. So it should turn out good.
Absolutely. Now, Landon, how has your game evolved since arriving at Southern Utah?
I think the biggest thing is, I mean, I've never been the biggest, strongest, fastest guy on the field, even high school, college, whenever. I think just learning how to take advantage of other opportunities of how to win a matchup, really more than anything.
Now, another question for all of you. What are your goals and hopes for the upcoming season? And Stacy, we can start with you on that one.
Well, you know, that championship gonna look good. Guy, national championship, especially your senior year. That's every senior's dream, to go out winning that championship. So I feel like as a team, that's our goal. You know, as a wide receiver room, we just want to get better every day. You know, work on our craft, protect our craft, do what we can for those who want to be at the next level to take those strides and chase that dream.
Absolutely. Now, Landon, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think he pretty much said it all. Every team, the goal, you want to win a Big Sky championship, you want to make a run to the playoffs, win a national championship. I mean, I don't know much more I can add on top of what Stacy said. Pretty much that's the dream for every team.
Absolutely. Lewis, what about for you? Is there anything you want to add?
I mean, yeah, those guys pretty much hit it on the head. And I'd just say just continuing to build relationships with guys on the team and different student athletes and incoming freshmen, whatever it is, and just kind of leaving a legacy for your team as a senior, I think, is probably the biggest thing for sure.
Now, Lewis, you mentioned incoming freshmen. What advice do you have for those younger guys who are coming on to the team?
My biggest thing is just kind of put your head down and work, especially as a freshman. You know, you come from being the guy, being the number one at your school as a senior. You know, you're the person, you know, oh, I'm going D1, all this stuff. And, a lot of guys come in, not a lot of guys, but some guys have a tendency to come in and they get humbled pretty quick because, like, now you're back as a freshman, you're kind of lower on the totem pole. And what we see is if you come as a freshman and you just put your head down and work, keep to yourself, stay out of trouble, and just do what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to earn the respect of all the older guys. And that's probably going to be the quickest way to earn your time playing. So that's probably the biggest thing.
And then I saw you nodding your head there. What advice do you have for some of the younger guys on your team?
I just really like what he said about, you come in being the best player from your school, pretty much everyone that comes in, just not expecting to come in and be that special guy. You're just another guy on the team. You got to work hard. You got to do the same thing as everyone else. I really like that.
JC, what advice do you have for younger guys?
Pretty much what these two guys said, just come down and work. When you're a freshman, I came in as a junior, so I don't really have experience, but when you're a freshman, you get the taste of that college life. You want to experience everything. You want to go to the parties. You want to do this, that, and the third. But if football is what you want to do and what you want to take far in life, you gotta make some sacrifices. The party's gonna be there forever. So if you put your head down and work, you're gonna get what you want to get.
Good advice from all of you. Now, Lewis, head coach Jeff Choate and his staff have built your team around the offensive line. How much pride does that give you?
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in that. Everyone knows we like to run the ball. And that's just, as an offensive lineman, that's just an awesome thing to do. It's a lot of fun when you get your run game going. It just kind of opens up the rest of your offense. And I think it's been a vital role in our success. And we attribute to coaches, great backs, our quarterbacks, receivers doing their jobs. And then luckily we've had, for the past years that I've been here, a very solid defensive line every year to kind of help sharpen us and keep us on our toes for sure. Because, when you go in to practices and you have to battle every day against the opposing team, against the defense, whatever it is, and being able to go against a strong, solid D line every week, it really helps you and really helps build you up for games. So.
Now, Stacey, do you see a difference in your game when it comes to playing in a dome versus outside, especially with how well a ball sails indoors?
Yeah, I would say that. You're always going to play better at home. I feel like just that, especially with our elevation we have up here, I feel like that's pretty much a kind of an advantage. So when we're in a flag staff, I feel like my game is a little elevated, not knocking my game going away, but that, that just comes with the home and away side. So I feel like it's pretty much an advantage for me.
Now, Landon, what does Southern Utah need to do to get back to the top of the Big Sky?
I wish there was some special ingredient that we could just flip the switch and do it. But it comes down to just, you got to play hard, disciplined football and just play together as a team. I think over the past couple of years, we've had lots of mistakes and lots of discipline issues just on the field that we need to fix, clean up. And as long as we play hard, team-centered football, I think we can make it happen.
There we go. Now, another question for all of you. What has been the most difficult part of this off season? And Landon, we can start with you on that one.
I think just, being away from everyone. Usually we have time together as a team all summer. We might have a few weeks off, but we're together, we're throwing or just being together as a team. I think has been the weirdest part, the hardest part, not being able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Lewis, what about for you?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say just being away from, your teammates, being away from your friends. You really kind of realize it's like how much time you actually spend. It's different. You can't go lift and go to the locker room and just hang out and talk. Oh, you want to go play some basketball, whatever it is. It's just you can't do those things. And it's kind of, makes you feel like you're missing out a little bit on the experience of it. Cause that's, besides football, that's the biggest thing is just building those relationships. And I think that's been the biggest thing missing for sure.
Stacey, what's been the most difficult part of the off season for you?
Pretty much what these two guys said, just not being able to be with your team, not getting to do spring ball, not just building that, that chemistry that most teams build during the off season, because that's really when it comes. So, I mean, you just got to find ways, like Lewis was saying earlier, like playing on the game with each other, getting that connection, staying in touch with one another, just making sure everybody's good and everybody's staying solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Lewis, how would you describe the Brawl of the Wild, and what does it mean to you to play in it?
I mean, it's the best game of the year every year. You get the whole state behind you, and it's crazy how the split is. It's like you're either a diehard Montana fan or you're a diehard MSU fan, and it's been awesome to be on the winning side of that streak here since I've been here. Because I know in the past it's been kind of tough for MSU, but it's so much fun, and the energy, and you get the most competitive side out of everyone from both sides, and the fans are great, and there's just a lot of history behind it. Coming in as a freshman, I really had absolutely no idea what it was all about, and then after that first year, it's like, yeah, that's what you're itching for all year. Like that's what you're looking forward to. So, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Stacy, how much different is it having to prepare for a season virtually as opposed to in person?
I mean, it really depends on the person. I feel like, speaking for myself, it just made me want to grind harder. Like nobody's really has that eye on you 24/7, like when you're on the field. So you can kind of get away with things if you really want to. So if you really have that love for football, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the hours. I feel like me and my team, my wide receiver, we've been doing that. Everybody's holding each other accountable. So this season is definitely harder to prepare for than other seasons, but if you want to do it, you got to get it done.
Absolutely. Now, Landon, what's the best part about playing in the Big Sky Conference?
I think it goes back to one of the first questions we talked about, just how competitive it is. I think Lewis said, I mean, any given Saturday, anyone can win. That's a fun time. You just got to go out, and every week you got to know you got to play your best if you want to come out with the W.
Now, earlier you all shared the advice that you would give to some of the younger guys on your team. What is the best piece of advice that you all received heading into your college football career? And Stacy, we can start with you on that.
I would say, and I actually had this, I was my screensaver. It was my junior college coach. Before I got here, he told me to attack everything with that dog mentality. Take no prisoners in between those white lines for the next 4 months. I've had that as my screensaver for about 3 years. It's just, every time I look at it, it just reminds me where I came from and how and what it took me to get here. And, leading up to everything that I did to get here, I would have to be a fool to just let that all diminish once I'm here. So I feel like that really motivated me to do what I'm doing now and to be the best player I can possibly.
Absolutely. Landon, the best piece of advice that you received?
I guess mine comes with a little bit of a backstory. It'd been like 4 years, my first college game. I served a church mission at a high school, so it'd been a long time since I last played football. And my first game was at Oregon in Autzen Stadium, so I was pretty nervous. And I mean, these guys are they're way bigger than me, everything, but just people telling me, I mean, they're just young guys like you, and just go out there and have fun. I mean, it's a game you love. You're all playing the same game. Don't worry about it. Just go out there and have fun.
Lewis, what about for you? Best piece of advice you've received?
Yeah, I'd say the best piece of advice for me was just, you hear the seniors say it all the time, is just take it in, enjoy every bit of it, because it goes fast. And it's like, I'm sitting here and it's like, I remember hearing that like it was yesterday, and it's like, now I'm a senior, now I'm preparing for my last season. It's just like, where did the time go? So I think, you have a tendency sometimes, obviously, to take that time for granted. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm in football. Oh, fall camp sucks, whatever it is. Just like being able to find that stuff and enjoy it, and being able to take those little things and those little battles and just being able to, grind through them with your friends and stuff is just, I mean, something that you got to always cherish.
Now, you're talking about those little things, those little moments. What would you say is something that you took for granted and maybe you realized in these last few months that we've been in that you were taking for granted?
For sure, spring ball. I was never a fan of spring ball. As you get older, it's kind of like it's a lot of young guy stuff. They're trying to get a lot of the young guys, acclimated and get them a lot of reps. But especially here, I mean, it's super cold. We're up early. It's just kind of like, it sucks sometimes. I'm not going to lie. And I think everyone's gone through that a little bit. But when we missed out on it, at first I was like, okay, like that's not too bad. Like we'll be able to get back to it, whatever, we'll make up for it. And now I'm sitting here, it's like, dang, I really wish I could have, I wish I could go out there when it was -2 and be out there with my friends and stuff messing around. It's just like you kind of take little stuff like that for granted. So I'd say that's one of the things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Stacey, is there anything that you took for granted that you realized that you're really missing in these past few months?
Yeah, it's those early workouts with the team, that 5:15, getting up, sitting on the edge of the bed, thinking to yourself, like, damn, is this really what I want to do? Like, and now that we're not getting to do that, like, I'm just missing. I feel like I really took that for granted. Like, I was just telling myself the other day, like, wow, I'm not going to get to do that anymore. If the season's looking how, like, it's going to be, we're just going to get straight into it, so it ain't going to be none of that. So I feel like if I can go back, I would have definitely cherished it.
Absolutely. Now, Landon, what about for you?
Yeah, I got to agree with Lewis. Just spring ball. I mean, when you're doing it, it's definitely not a fun time. I don't know. It's not the best, but looking back, it's something that you really need. And I wish we could have had it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another question for all of you. Which team are you always fired up to play? Lewis, you can go first on that one.
I mean, I think like we talked about earlier, how it's so much fun to play every team because every game's so competitive. But I mean, obviously for me, the Cat Grizz game is one of the best ones for sure. One of the most you look forward to.
What about for you, Landon?
I mean, yeah, I think it's the trophy rivalry games. I mean, NAU and Weaver for us.
Stacey, what about for you?
I would have to say that Southern Utah rivalry, they edged us out last season, so so we coming.
Okay. All right. So, Lewis, what makes you most proud of being a Bobcat?
I would say just the fan support and the fan love and just the community that you kind of are able to build here at Bozeman. You've got the whole town cheering for you. You got little kids coming up to you after the games, asking for gloves, asking for autographs, whatever it is. And I just think it's awesome to be able to play and for those people and being able to give back to the community like that and, be there for them. So I'd say that's the biggest reason for sure.
Landon, what's the best part of the Thunderbird community?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love Cedar City. I grew up down here. My grandparents are from pretty close to here. So, I mean, they're just great people here. It's really built around the school, and you just feel a lot of support. I mean, it's probably 30,000 people in this town or something like that, and sometimes we'll get 12, 13,000 at the game. We got a third of the city at the game, and it's awesome feeling that support from the whole city.
Now, Stacey, it seems like there's such a brotherhood that exists in NAU football. You talked about how you guys really are so close-knit. What's it like being a part of that group?
It's always a good time, just to know somebody has your back, not even just on the football field, just when you're rolling around town. You can always count on your boys, and the coaching staff just makes you feel like just family. It's hard to find that from coaches these days, but with this coaching staff we have now, it just feels like they actually care about all their players. They want to see us succeed in football, in the classroom, and in our life. They want to mold us to be good young men and grow up to have successful careers.
That's great. Well, now it's time to answer some more relaxed questions. So up first, who has the best uniforms in the Big Sky? Lewis, who do you have?
That's a good one. Can we say ourselves? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing.
You can if you can back it up.
I mean, I really like our Gold Rush jerseys for sure. Like, those are sweet. But, I got to give – I think everyone's got good whiteout jerseys for sure. I think those are, I mean, pretty much anytime you do white on white with anyone, I think it looks pretty clean. So, but yeah, I also like NAU's blue and gold. And then I like the helmets that Southern Utah uses for sure. The kind of white with like the red pinstripe logo, stuff like that. I think that's really, really clean. So.
All right, Landon, what do you think? Who has the best uniforms in the Big Sky?
I mean, it's tough. There's a few good ones. Like Lewis said, I mean, I do like the all blue the NAU wears. I think Portland State has some good ones. I don't know. They look pretty clean to me, but I think everyone has some pretty good jerseys. There's not any that I would say are too bad, I guess.
Stacy, what about you?
If we can't say ourselves, I'm gonna go with Southern Utah's black. Sacramento State. I like the black jerseys. That's just something that I really like. Southern Utah, Sac, Eastern Washington. When they come on in that, it just look clean. Like, like it's straight to business. Like, I don't know.
All right, I like it. Where is your favorite place to play? Lewis, you can go first.
Place to play. I'd say Missoula. I think that's probably, they've got a great stadium. They've got a lot of loud fans, and every time we go there, it's like it seems like there's double of what there is normally. So it's like just a great atmosphere, and it's a lot of fun to play in.
Landon, your favorite place to play?
I guess Cal Poly feels a little different, but I thought it was a pretty cool venue to play there.
Stacy?
I would have to say Montana State, just because y'all fan base crazy, man. I've never like the way the game went and then how it ended. Like I've never seen fans leave and then come back and fill the whole stadium. That was honestly crazy. So I don't know if they was just in the parking lot waiting because they knew it was gonna happen or what, but yeah, that fan base crazy.
Who in the Big Sky has the coolest mascot? Lewis.
I think the Thunderbirds are kind of sweet, honestly. It's a unique one too, for sure. I think that might be one of my top ones.
For Landon?
I don't know. That's interesting. There's some, different mascots I feel like than typical college mascots, but I would probably choose the Thunderbirds too, but I probably can't do that. So I'd probably go with, NAU. I think they do some good things with the Lumberjack mascot.
Stacy.
Yeah, I have to go with Lewis. Say the Thunderbirds. It's a unique type of mascot. I also like the Wildcats too. He was turned up on the sideline. So
Waldo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who has the most interesting fan base? Stacy, you kind of touched on that, but I don't know if that's your final answer.
Yeah, I'm going Montana State.
Okay,
Yes.
Landon, your most interesting base.
Yeah, in conference, I'd probably have to say Montana State too. I've never been to Missoula, so I can't speak on Montana, but Montana State has a pretty good fan base.
Lewis.
I think from last year, for sure, Cal Poly. They were in our ear the entire game, and that was we scraped out of that game. So I think they had a pretty good fan base for that game for sure.
Now, who is the best or most dynamic player in the conference you've gone up against? Landon, we'll start with you on that one.
I can't remember his name. He's Montana State number 15. He plays quarterback, linebacker. What's his name?
Troy Anderson.
Yeah, he ran all over us last year. So, and he did the same thing on defense. So he's pretty good. He did a good job.
Stacy.
I was gonna say him, but since he said him, I'll say the running back from Weber State. I think his name is Josh.
Josh Davis.
Yeah, he's wiggly back there, man. He was doing what he wanted.
Lewis.
I would say as a group, I'd say Sac State's D-line last year. They were on. and they had a hell of a season. So I think for sure that group was one of the most dynamic for sure.
Now, last question for you all. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? Stacy, you can go first.
It would have to be. Are we talking about just from this season or just period?
Any team. Who do you enjoy beating the most?
Weber State.
All right, Landon.
Yeah, I think just again like the two rivalry games, NAU, Weber State.
Lewis.
Gotta stick with Missoula on this one.
All righty. Well, thank you, Lewis, Stacy, and Landon for joining me on the Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. It is always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We are ready for the 2020 Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff Student Athlete Interviews. I'm joined by Eastern Washington quarterback Eric Berrier, Weber State running back Josh Davis, Cal Poly linebacker Matt Shotwell, and Idaho linebacker Christian Ellis. Welcome and thanks for joining me today to talk Big Sky Football. We're going to jump right into our first set of questions. This question is for all of you. What is the most challenging element of playing in the Big Sky Conference? And Christian, we'll start with you on that question.
For me, it has to be the amount of passing. It's different from the Sun Belt. When we came to the Big Sky, Sun Belt was more of a running, but now that we get to the Big Sky, the amount of passing from offenses, I think that was the most interesting thing about the Big Sky.
All right, Josh, what about you?
I'd have to say the level of talent and just the teams, they're harder than any. I think we have the hardest, conference in the nation, to be honest, with all the teams we have in there. So,
Matt, what about for you?
I think like the different for me personally as the defensive linebacker, having so many dynamic offenses that do different things, but with the RPO and still having guys that can run the ball as a quarterback also, I think that's one of the most challenging parts of playing in the Big Sky Conference is the athletes all on the offensive side of the ball.
Eric, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I'd probably say just the competition, just knowing week in and week out, you're going to be challenged and facing a good opponent.
All right, so Christian, a question for you. Playing for your dad and with two of your brothers, how important has the Vandal family been to you during your time in Moscow?
Oh, it's been so important to me. First, thanks to Coach P for even allowing me to come to play. But just being able to play with my brothers and then being able to be coached with my dad and just be able to experience that is just something that I would never trade for the world. So I'm just appreciative, and I love this Vandal family.
Now, Josh, Weber State has been at the top of the Big Sky for the last 3 years. What, in your opinion, has worked for the Wildcats to achieve that feat?
I think it's been the players, their determination to be better, and the coaching staff we have at Weber State, I think, is the best in the Big Sky and might be the nation. So I think that has to be the most tribute to our success.
Now, Matt, what have the first several months under Coach Baldwin been like?
I mean, it started out really awesome. I mean, the guy, Coach Baldwin and his staff bring a great deal of energy to things that have been lacking, a lot of importance on details that have been lacking for us specifically. Then the COVID-19 hit, and then we haven't been able to do our spring ball or anything like that to really see how coaches will interact with us on the field and everything like that. But definitely the as I said, details that he's harping on, the work ethic that he's pushing has definitely stepped up since the last season when he got brought in.
Now, Eric, Eastern Washington has a long tradition of great quarterbacks. Did that have anything to do with your decision to play for the Eagles?
A little bit, but not really, because I didn't know too much about Eastern. I kind of like knew about Vernon Adams and stuff, but like what he did. But like ultimately, like it just came down to like Eastern or Hawaii, and I just felt more comfortable going to Eastern.
Why did you feel more comfortable going to Eastern?
Well, I took a trip to Hawaii. It was beautiful. I mean, it was. I had a great time, but I felt like it was more of a vacation spot, and like I just felt too far away from home, and I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't see myself just trapped on the island. So I couldn't do that.
Makes sense. Okay, so another question for all of you. What is the best thing about playing your position? Christian, we'll start with you on that one.
I love the creativity that linebackers get. I love defense in general. I like reacting and just being able to react to the ball. I think my position specifically, I enjoy being able to cover guys, being able to pass rush, being able to blitz, being able to meet guys in the hole. That's what I enjoy about it. I enjoy the different aspects and the different things I can do within the position.
Josh, what's the best thing about playing your position?
I'd probably say scoring touchdowns. There's a lot of stuff that goes into running back, but, my top thing is the best thing about playing my position is probably scoring touchdowns.
Matt, what about for you?
For me, I love always being in the play, whether it be run or pass, you're always involved in some part or aspect of the play and always have the opportunity to get to the ball and make the tackle and make the play that you need to be in.
Eric, what about for you?
I'll just say being a field general and always knowing that as a quarterback, you're going to always have the ball in your hands. So as soon as you catch that snap, you got to make the right read. So I just think knowing that I'm always had the ball in my hand, I'm a field general, that's the best thing about it.
Now, Christian, another question for you. What's missing from your college resume that you hope to achieve this year?
I'm pretty sure it's All-American. I think that's what I wanted. That's what I want. That's what I'm aiming for this year. All-American, yep.
And what do you feel that you can improve upon the most this year, work towards to achieve that goal?
Being more physically dominant on the field. Just letting guys know that when I'm on that field, it's my turf, it's my defense, it's my team, and I know that they have my back. I'll have their back, and I'm gonna give it my all.
Now, Josh, talking about your coach, Jay Hill, why is he such a good fit at Weber State?
His knowledge for the game is great, but I think it comes being personal to the players and the coaching staff he brings in, and just because he's a defense coordinator, the knowledge of his defense is great for Weber State and what we're doing, and I think that's why he's the best fit at Weber State.
Now, Matt, what do you enjoy most about playing college football?
For me, when I get asked this question, I would say it's college football in general is probably the greatest metaphor for life. I think that you have ups and downs throughout your college career, and it's the way you bounce back from them or how you react to them. And it's exactly how you have to go through life post-football. Like, you're going to have ups and downs in your career, in your families and stuff like that. And then also the brotherhood that you have with your teammates that make it so special and make these 4 or 5 years so memorable that are going to last you a lifetime.
Now, Eric, Matt mentioned the word brotherhood. What is the brotherhood like at Eastern Washington?
Oh, it's special. I mean, it felt like a brotherhood on my recruiting trip. I remember coming back being 18, seeing everybody just out, just having each other, sticking each other. I don't know, I'm talking too fast, my bad. But no, I just think the brotherhood at Eastern is really special because the unity here, they preach it, and I think they preach it so much to people just know that Eastern is just a special place, and they know they know that they gonna come to a good place, a good team that gonna have each other back and stick with each other.
Christian, I'm going to ask you that same question that I asked Matt. What do you enjoy most about playing college football?
I think I love the competition more than anything. It gives me a chance to push myself. It gives me a chance to be the best I can be. That's something I always wanted to do. It's something I've always been taught ever since I was a kid. Just try to be the best you can be. And then you aren't just going up against guys in your meeting room. You're going up against guys across the nation in the same position. And just being able to compete at that college level definitely is one of the greatest things.
And Josh, what about for you? What do you enjoy most about playing college football?
I'll probably have to agree with Christian. The competition. You're competing with everyone around you. You're competing with guys in different positions, different teams, and that's the best part about football, I think.
Now, Eric, what should we expect to see from you in your senior year?
Senior year, it's my ultimate goal just to keep on getting better. I think last year I was good for the most part, but I still think I was lacking things. So I think I just want to improve my senior, completion percentage wise, and just be more dominant. Really, take over the game and not think too much. That's about it.
Now, another question for all of you, and Matt, we'll start with you on this one. What is your goal for yourself this season that you hope to accomplish?
I think for me personally, it's not so much about a personal goal. It's more of, as a senior with the new coaching staff, changing the culture, turning in Cal Poly into a winning program again, and being the best team that we can possibly be, and hopefully catapult future teams to be competing for Big Sky championships every year in.
Now, if you had to think of a personal goal, what would that be?
I'd say I had a really hard time with missed tackles last year. I would get to the ball carrier, but fail to wrap up, run my feet. So working on that kind of thing, and just being an overall field general out there as the senior linebacker on the defense. So I think being able to communicate as well as I can will help me personally too.
Josh, what about for you? A personal goal and a team goal for this upcoming season?
I think the team goal every season is to be a Big Sky champs and, go to the national championship. My personal goal is probably to be an All-American again, and then, maybe be up for the running and the Walter Payton Award.
Eric, what about for you? Personal goal and team goal?
Team goal is to win the Big Sky and try to get back to the national championship because I want to win it. And then just personal goal really is to win Player of the Year. I want to win Walter Payton, so I'm going to just go out there and work and do what I got to do.
Christian, I know that you kind of touched on a personal goal, but if you want to add anything to that and tell me what your team goal would be.
I think my team goal is the same as everybody else's. We want to win the Big Sky. We also want to go and actually play in the playoffs and do better than we did last year. That's a personal goal. I think me forcing turnovers more, really focusing that the game is really about the ball. It's about getting the ball back for our offense, getting those opportunities. So forcing turnovers, interceptions, strip sacks, that's what I'm going to be focusing on.
Now, Josh, a question for you. Other than the Wildcats, which team has the hardest hitting linebackers in the Big Sky?
I'd have to say Montana. I mean, they had some good linebackers last year, and, they beat me up a couple times. So I think Montana has to be the top.
All right. Now, Matt, how have you managed to stay mentally tough during this offseason?
I think just staying positive, knowing that football is going to happen at some point, definitely for me being in my senior year, I know I keep mentioning that, but I think staying positive, knowing that we're going to have a season, whether it be fall, whether it be spring, or if they cancel it completely and we do have to go through a 6-year, I'm going to play football again and have try to make the most of it. So just staying positive is probably the biggest point for me. And I got a good support system with my family. And I mean, we were all my brothers were Cal Poly football players, so they love Cal Poly football and want to see me have a good senior year. So that's what probably keeps driving me to stay positive through the whole situation.
Did your brothers have any influence on you in terms of your decision to play Cal Poly?
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, probably. I would probably not go to any other school. I really love Cal Poly. I love the culture that it brings. I love the city of SLO. Yeah, it's just a pretty awesome place to be a part of, and the education that you get from it is just, I see what my brothers have done after football and the careers that they have, and it's just a great education that you get that propels you into life after football.
Christian, what has been the missing link the first 2 seasons back in the Big Sky?
Honestly, I would have to say it was probably just a sense of leadership, a sense of someone being able to take command and being able to drive our team forward. There was definitely some leadership issues, but I know Coach P and some of the other leaders on the team really been focusing on that. So hopefully this year it will be turned around.
Christian, what are the necessary elements Idaho needs to take the next step to league title contender?
I think our defense needs to stay on top of it. I think our defense needs to not allow as many points as we did this last year. We're getting everybody back except for 2 DBs, and we got some good DBs that came in. So hopefully we can just as a defense really focus on shutting down offenses and keeping our offense on the field.
Eric, why is it so hard to win a road game in the Big Sky?
I do not know, because we definitely struggled with that last year. So I think it's just it's just not like any given Saturday. Really, you just don't never know. Anybody can have a league game. So that's what I think of it as. Any team can go out there and lose on Saturday. But for us, I know it was definitely hard because it seemed like we'd have a good week heading up into practice, and then one Saturday came, but it was all good.
All right, so another question for all of you. What has been the most difficult part of this offseason? And Josh, we'll start with you on that.
Most difficult part was probably not seeing any of my teammates, not being around, because, you're always at the facility, you're always at the stadium, you're hanging out with your guys, and then, COVID hits and you go home and you don't see anybody. So I think that was probably the most difficult part of the offseason.
Matt, what was the most difficult part of the offseason for you?
Yeah, exactly what Josh said. And also, not having a spring ball, so not getting all our installs in, definitely kind of and being able to run them on the field or whatever. It didn't help us at all, but we still were able to do Zoom meetings and get the packages in that we needed to get in. So, yeah, COVID kind of messed up everything for us a little bit, but we still feel like we can compete. We're going to be able to compete really well this year.
Christian, what about for you, the most difficult part of this offseason?
Definitely the lack of community. We get to meet through Zoom, but other than that, I miss being around the guys. I miss being able to do spring ball and do summer workouts and being able to compete with our guys and being able to see them and have barbecues and do all that. So that's the part that I think I miss the most.
Eric, what about for you?
Yeah, I would say not being with my teammates and then just not having that spring ball, especially just as a senior. Like I was looking forward to that spring ball, honestly. And then just not really just knowing what to expect, just with everything's going on. It's kind of I remember before I left, before COVID started, and I only had I'm thinking I was gonna come back and only taking 2 weeks of clothes home with me. I ended up staying for 3 months, and just, I don't know, just crazy.
Yeah. Now, Christian, if you could, and I'm sure that you have, give advice to the younger Idaho players, what would that advice be?
Take time to allow your body to recover. I know not a lot of programs harp on it, but being able to know when to stop working as hard and then to get in the training room and making sure that your body's healthy. I think that's a big thing that a lot of football players miss is they'll stay out on the field and keep practicing, keep working, keep tearing at their muscles and body, but then they won't take the time to recover after. So I think that recovery part is a huge part of being a football player.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Now, Matt, as a defensive player, how hard is it in the offseason to prepare for conference opponents with many having a new face at QB?
I think every Big Sky school, every team has really dynamic QBs. They all have their own skill set that they really can do well, especially with their system that they're in. So I think the offensive coordinators in the Big Sky do a really good job fitting the system of their quarterbacks. So once you get into a couple games in, you've seen some film, you get the systems down. It's not so hard about the new face of the quarterback. It's more about facing the system. But then also you have a guy like Eric who can run the ball like crazy. I mean, he ran all over us last year. So we're just so you have to take him into account. It's a whole nother guy that can run the ball also. So it just kind of depends on the skill set and the kind of system that they're running.
Josh, how hungry are you as a team after advancing one step farther in the playoffs and reaching the Final Four last season?
I think we're hungrier than ever. I mean, we came up short last season to JMU, but our ultimate goal is to get to that championship, the national championship. I think our team is ready for it, and our team's just ready to be in pads and playing football.
Eric, you're very good at balancing your offensive attack. How has that improved since your arrival in Cheney?
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is a question from the media. They said you're very good at balancing your offensive attack, which, I mean, you are. So how have you improved in that way since your arrival in Cheney?
I was just saying probably just the knowledge of the game. So kind of just as I was in high school, I knew about football and stuff like that, but you don't know the full details of coverage and stuff like that. So I just think as I got older and stuff throughout the years of college, just knowing coverages wise and different schemes and fronts, that's what really has been growing.
Now, another question for all of you. Which team usually gives you the hardest time? Matt, we'll start with you on that one.
I'm going to go with Weber State. The past couple of years, we've been really close with them, and then Josh breaks off a big run or whatever, and then takes it 40 yards for a touchdown, and then it's been downhill from there. But, I mean, yeah, they just have a really good balanced attack. Their line moves really well and works in sync and creates those lanes. And then Constantine does a great job of finding RPO when he has to, and when he has to hit the deep ball, he hits it too. So seeing that is pretty impressive and definitely gives us a hard time as a defense.
Christian, what about for your team? Who gives you the hardest time?
Oh, that's Montana. That's Montana easy. Every year. I don't know. They always are Achilles heel. Every other team, we could have a good plan for. We could do all that stuff, go out, play well. But for some reason, Montana just gets under us. I don't know why. Yeah.
Josh, what about for you and your team? Who gives you the hardest time?
Probably Montana. I mean, last year they got us in that first game, and then that second game we got them back. But they got to be the hardest team.
Eric, what do you have to say for that?
I'll say Weber, because I know my first start against Weber, they tore me up. So I just look at Weber as the foundation, defense-wise, as the Big Sky. So I go Weber.
Now, one last question before we move on to a more relaxed set of questions. What is the greatest lesson that you have learned from college football? Matt, we'll start with you on that one.
Oh, man. I'd probably say being patient. You're coming in as a senior out of high school, coming in thinking you're going to be the best and you're going to start right away, but the patience that you have to learn the system, learn how things work, learn the speed that college football really is. You just have to be patient and know that your time is going to come, and when you're ready, you got to take your chance and take your shot and be ready to be able to be ready to capitalize on it.
Great. Christian, what about for you? Greatest lesson learned from college football?
I think discipline of doing the little things right, of getting up at a certain time, of not missing a meal, not missing a play, not missing a film session, not, making sure that you're disciplined in all that you do, because it'll take you farther in life.
Josh, what about for you?
Probably reliability. It goes along with Christians. You know, you got to be certain places, certain times. You got to be reliable in the classroom, off the field, on the field. You know, I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned is being reliable.
Eric, what about for you? The greatest lesson that you've learned from college football?
For me, it's been time management and patience. So just kind of like just throughout my career, I just started when I redshirted. I had to have patience and stuff because it was difficult for me just coming in, like wanting to play and stuff and having to wait. And then I say time management because throughout college, you got to find ways to manage your time with working out, watching film, and practicing homework and all that stuff. So I had to find ways to manage my time. And I wasn't good at first, but eventually I got better at it.
That's great. Now it's time to answer some more relaxed questions. And Matt, we're going to start with you on this first question. Who has the best uniforms in the Big Sky?
I like Eastern Washington's. I love the red and black look. I love what Weaver State's. And then Montana's is always iconic, so for FCS football. So I like those too.
Christian, what about for you?
I like purple, so I think I like Weaver State's uniforms. Yeah.
All right, Josh.
Yeah, Weaver State all the way.
Eric.
Yeah, I think we got the best uniforms, Eastern.
Okay, there you go. All right, so where is your favorite place to play? Matt?
Idaho State was really fun because the atmosphere that you're right under the student section, getting through stuff thrown at you is pretty cool. Kind of like you're really cool. You're really into the deep football. Like everyone loves football there, so it's pretty awesome. I like that aspect. And Weaver State's was really fun, having the student section right behind you, getting booed and everything like that. But yeah, I think that's my favorite too.
Christian, your favorite place to play?
Oh, if I had, I think Montana and then Idaho State. Montana just because it was an iconic stadium. It was fun to be in. But then there's just something about Idaho State, that entrance, and when they turn off all the lights at the beginning, and it's just different. That one's just different. I like Idaho State.
Josh, your favorite place to play?
I really like Montana. You know, it's a very loud stadium, but I like a home field advantage. I like playing at Weaver State the most, you know.
Eric, your favorite place to play?
I like to play at Sac State and Cal Poly, because since I'm a Cali dude, I like having all my family and stuff there supporting me.
Now, the coolest mascot in the Big Sky, Matt, who do you have?
I think the Grizz is pretty sick. I like that. I like Montana's Grizz, but I also like the Mustang. I think that's pretty sweet too with our horse coming at you. I think that's pretty sick.
There you go. Christian, which Big Sky school is the coolest mascot?
I'm just gonna go Vandals.
There you go.
Don't really, yeah.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Yeah.
Josh, who do you think has the coolest mascot in the Big Sky?
Wildcats. He's got some cool moves that he does, and I think that's it.
Eric?
I'll go Montana, the Bobcat, Montana State.
Okay. Now, who has the most interesting fan base? Matt, you can go first on that one.
I mean, I went to Montana when I was a little kid watching my brothers play, and I remember them then. So I haven't played at Montana yet, and we play them this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I remember some pretty awesome memories of how loud it was and stuff like that and how much they love their Grizz. So I think they have the most solid fan base, to be honest.
Christian, what do you think? Most interesting fan base?
Oh, the most interesting is Idaho State by far. Their student section is ruthless. They do not care. So that's fun.
Josh, who do you have? Most interesting fan base?
I think it's either Montana State or Montana Grizz. You know, they're loud. You know, they're always heckling in your ear. And I think they're the most interesting fan base.
There you go. Eric, most interesting fan base?
Definitely Montana. I
Okay.
love Montana.
Now, who is the best or most dynamic player in the conference you've gone up against? Matt.
I think it's kind of a tandem for me between like seeing Josh and Constantine play together. They're a pretty dynamic duo, and they're both dual threats when they run and stuff like that. But Eric's also really dynamic when he plays too. He can run and he can throw. So having him on the field is always, you got to keep an eye out for him when he's dropping back because he can scramble at any second.
Christian.
For me, the biggest pain is probably Eric. Not gonna lie. When we start pass rushing, I remember our game this year, the fourth quarter. I started pass rushing, and he just kept running sideline to sideline. I had to keep chasing him sideline to sideline, and I just got tired. I was like, this dude just needs to stand still so I can sack him.
Josh, best or most dynamic player in the conference you've gone up against?
Probably Dante Olsen, the guy who won the Buck Buchanan Award. He was, he was in on every play. He's always there, always, just a nuisance. But he's going to be the most dynamic player I've played against.
Eric, what about for you?
Yeah, I'll probably say Dante Olsen, or I can't think of his name, but I know he was the D lineman for Sac State, number like 99. I can't think of his name right now, but it was big though. Big boy, for sure, man.
All right, last question for you all. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? Matt.
For me personally, the best win that I've had was NAU. When the year before that, they blew us out at our home field, and I actually got a kid ripped my helmet off and threw it to 10 yards and stuff like that. So that pissed me off. And then we went to their house and beat them that next following year, which was awesome.
There you go. Christian, which team do you enjoy beating the most?
Well, I would say Montana, but we haven't beat them yet since I've been here. So I can't say Montana. I think I'm going to have to go Eastern. Eastern was a game that I enjoyed winning.
Josh?
Probably SUU or Idaho. They're our rivals, and that's the best team to beat.
There you go. Rival, that's all you got to say. Eric, What about for you? Which team do you enjoy beating the most?
Well, I know we didn't beat them last year, but I know for us it would be like Montana, or I'll go Portland since it's a kind of a rival game.
Well, that's a good one. There you go. So thank you, Eric, Josh, Matt, and Christian for joining me on the Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. It is always a pleasure. We're ready for 2020 Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff Student Athlete Interviews. I'm joined by Idaho State wide receiver Tanner Connor, UC Davis running back Alonzo Gilliam, and Sacramento State running back Elijah Dotson. Welcome and thanks for joining me today to talk Big Sky football. We're going to jump right into our first set of questions. For all of you, what makes the Big Sky Conference such a competitive league? And Tanner, we'll start with you on that one.
Okay. I think the Big Sky is pretty underrated. I think we get a lot of potential out of the Northwest and a lot of local guys at every school. I think that where the Big Sky thrives is not picking up big names. We like pick up local guys for every school, especially at Idaho State. We like pick up a lot of Idaho guys. They recruit heavily from the Northwest, who are guys who have like a lot of potential, but don't necessarily get like over recruited. So I think we get a lot of hidden gems, and that's what makes us more competitive, especially in the last couple of years.
Elijah, what are your thoughts on that? What makes the Big Sky Conference such a competitive league?
I agree with Tanner as well. And I can also say that the Big Sky is very, I want to say, what's the word, competitive? Because you never know who's going to win the Big Sky Championship every year. You always have a different team winning it. It's not always the same team getting that championship. There might be a team that might get it back to back, but it's always somebody new.
Very true. Alonzo, what about for you?
Yeah, I have to agree with Elijah and Tanner that the Big Sky just has so much talent, and I feel like we are as a conference underestimated. But I think what makes it special is just like Elijah said, that you don't really know who's gonna be on top that year. So it makes everybody put their best foot forward each year, and I think that's what brings out the competitiveness in each team. So.
Absolutely. Now, Tanner, in the Big Sky, you get to play in domes and outside. Which one do you like better and why?
Definitely domes. It's always 70 and sunny in Pocatello, Idaho. So playing in domes, you don't deal with weather or anything like that. No wind, especially for a receiver. You don't want the quarterbacks to deal with wind throwing you the ball. Always having a warm climate, not snowing in Montana or anything like that, or in Ogden. So, yeah, I think for me, just domes. It can be fun outside with the atmosphere of the crowd, but, I mean, you don't have to worry about it being too hot or too cold in the dome. So always going to go with that.
That's true. Now, Elijah, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Losing Kevin Thompson is definitely tough, but what makes the returning guy so special?
I think what makes the returning guy so special is just that we've always had that drive to win. Whether it didn't matter what like type of adversity we were put in, we always had that push, to always make us want to win, regardless of the situation we were put in.
Now, Alonzo, Jake Mayer was a tremendous leader and quarterback for UC Davis the past couple of years. What gives you confidence in the offensive personnel that returns?
Yeah, Jake Mayer definitely played a role into until our success in the last couple of years. But this year, I'm looking forward to everybody else being able to show their talent, showcase their talent-wise, and we have so much talent on the team, and I'm looking forward to see who's ready to step up and really show what they're about.
Now, a question for all of you. Tanner, we'll start with you first. What creative ways have you come up with to stay in shape the past few months?
Yeah, so when we all first got sent home, when this whole thing broke out, I was pretty much stuck in Washington. All the gyms are closed, obviously, so my dad took it upon himself to build me and my brothers, like a makeshift gym. So we had like Olympic lifting platforms and a squat rack and got some bumper plates and 2 barbells and some other weights, and we were just able to train in there. My brothers and I would go out and throw to each other just between us, and then just lift in our garage, and did that for like 2.5 months before we came back. So it was really a blessing for that, but I guess that's kind of creative as you can get.
Absolutely. Now, Elijah, what about for you?
I invested in weights, bench set, and I just jogged around my neighborhood. So that was really pretty much all I did over this break.
Alonzo, what about for you?
Yeah, luckily my uncle had some weights, and he was able to let us borrow some. So me, my dad, and my little brother kind of set our garage up into a little gym with mats on the floor and all kinds of weights. So I was blessed to do that.
That's fantastic. Now, Tanner, spring track was canceled this season. As a dual sport guy, how did that affect your preparation and workouts this spring and summer?
Yeah, outdoor season is only pretty tough. Getting to a lot of conditioning during outdoor season, especially when you start doing 100 and 200 repeats. Having that cut short, I just kind of started focusing on football. Went back home, just did a lot more route stuff, a lot more hand-eye coordination, just drills. So I think the focus really just shifted from getting in condition for track shape just to go into getting prepared for skill-wise for football. So it just kind of came a little bit earlier than the summer would normally be, and it was a bummer to see the outdoor track season go that quickly, but just focus on the next thing.
Definitely. Now, do you feel more prepared for football than maybe in the past due to having the time to focus on more football-specific stuff?
I guess we'll find out if we have a season. We'll see if what I've been doing is going to work. I think track always helped because I would always be so conditioned and really fast just from working on running form and racing every weekend and doing stuff like that. But, maybe focusing on hand-eye coordination, running a lot of routes, catching more balls during the spring might help out transitioning to the summer into the season. So I guess we'll find out, hopefully.
Now, Elijah, how would you describe playing in Coach Taylor's attack?
It's very interesting. I would say that because it's very fast, I would say, because, it's a hurry-up offense. So it's very I can't really find the words for it, but it's very unique. It's very unique because you can always get a defense off balance with just with the snap of a finger. He has all these signals, and it's real interesting, and I just like playing a part of it.
Now, Alonzo, when you get the ball, what are you looking for as you approach the hole?
I'm just kind of based off the play. I'm just kind of reading my blocks and just looking for that split second that I could just hit the hole and burst, and then trying to make the first dude that I see miss. And honestly, I'm just trying to take it to the house every time. I know that doesn't happen, but I feel like that's a mentality a running back got to have. But honestly, it's just to fall forward and keep my feet moving.
Absolutely. Now, another question for all of you. What are your goals and hopes for the upcoming season? Tanner, we'll start with you.
First and foremost, just to have a season. That would be the biggest blessing we could have for all of us. Just be able to compete again, whether we have fans or not, just be able to go out there and compete against other schools. Other than that, just being a leader on the team coming into our senior years, being able to help the younger guys out and be good leaders on the team for the future generation. So,
Elijah, your hopes and goals for the season?
I would say the same, just to have a season, and also just take advantage of the opportunity of playing your senior season, because, not a lot of people have a chance to play football after this. This could be their last shot, so I want to take advantage of every opportunity that we get.
Alonzo, what about you?
Yeah, it would be definitely to have a season and really just take advantage of the opportunity that we get, if we do get the chance to play. And, we're always working to win and that Big Sky championship. What we push for. So, yeah.
Now, Tanner, it has only been back for 2 years, but is Idaho versus Idaho State becoming one of those games the program circles and becoming more of a true rivalry?
Yeah, it always should have been. It's nice out there in the Big Sky. It makes it a lot easier to schedule it, but you always want to have interstate rivalries. So you get that in a lot of other states, so we didn't really have that here. So having Idaho back in the conference makes it a lot easier, and now those games are obviously way more packed, especially at home. We get them here, so I say it's become more of a rivalry here.
Elijah, what's going to be the biggest challenge about repeating as Big Sky champs?
The biggest challenge would be to just not be complacent and, to be consistent, because a lot of times, guys will just feel like that stuff will come easy. Now, I'm not saying anybody specific, kind of probably incoming freshmen, you got to establish them with a tradition that we got to work hard for what we want to get to. So that'll probably be the biggest challenge, and just competing will be another, but that's never really a challenge. It's just something that we got to instill in the younger guys. So I think we'll be fine.
Alonzo, what's the key factor in UC Davis making a run for the league title and a playoff spot?
Just to go out and compete every game. I feel like once we get back, and hopefully we get back, we just gotta be, about our business when we step on the field. I feel like once we get into that mentality, adding with the talent that we have, I feel like we could be a good football team this upcoming year.
Now, another question for all of you. What has been the most difficult part of this offseason? Tanner.
I think just the uncertainty of having a season this next upcoming season, the uncertainty of being able to come back and lift or doing off-field activities. I think the uncertainty has probably been the biggest challenge for any athlete across the nation. So just kind of trying to hope for the next week that you can do more stuff, and the week after that you can do more and more, and just kind of keeping your head right and just getting to the grindstone. So just not trying to focus on too many things, but also just focus on what you're doing at the time.
Elijah, what would you like to add to that, the most difficult part of this offseason?
I agree with Tanner, and I'll also say the team orchestrated things like lifting together, conditioning, having the meetings in the meeting room, because it's kind of hard, even for myself, to pay attention to an offensive meeting when it's on my cell phone, and it's kind of distracting at the same time. So I think having team orchestrated stuff will be something that we should I think we should have. That was the struggle.
Alonzo, what about for you, the most difficult part of this offseason?
Yeah, I would just say it's being away from everybody, being away from my brothers and the team. During kind of this time, this is when we spend the most time with each other, really, and really get ready for the season and stuff. But I would agree with Elijah to say this virtual thing, having to do classes through online and Zoom meetings with our coaches and stuff. It's kind of, I'm not really used to it, but it's took some time to get used to.
Now, Tanner, you're going to have to be the guy who replaces a majority of the production from losing Mitch Goller and Michael Dean. How do you look at that situation?
I think a lot of my production last season came from defenses overcompensating for Mitch and Mikey. So we'd have a lot of defenses who would try to overcover them, and that kind of left me in a lot of one-on-one matchups, which was good for me because as an offense, you look for one-on-one matchups. That's going to be the easiest place to get the ball. So I think a lot of my production came from Mitch and Mikey's previous success and their success that season. But and then hopefully, I mean, you don't want to see that. You don't want to be the guy who the defense is double covering. But in this next upcoming season, if defenses do that to the most productive guy coming in, hopefully the other guys who are stepping up can take advantage of that and be just as productive. So that's how I look at it.
Are you expecting defenses to cover you differently this season?
I don't know. I really have only had one true season. We'll see how much defenses want to respect me, I guess, as a player and our offense as a total. But I'm confident in our offense completely to take advantage of whatever they give us.
Now, Elijah, what were some of the things that worked for the Hornets last season that you think carry over to now?
Something that worked was the structure of our playbook. We were very flexible with how we played. We had a lot of ways to get into different, various runs and passes, because sometimes we would mix it up and you wouldn't know if we were going to run or throw it, So, and Kevin, he was a very good complement to that offense because he was very dynamic and he was dual threat. So that's what was pretty good about that.
Alonzo, how has your game improved since arriving at UC Davis?
My knowledge of the game really, really improved, I think, the most. Working with Coach Speckman, I think it's bigger than just being like a running back. It's knowing the defenses. It's knowing, how to really kind of orchestrate an offense. Really, that's what he teaches us. So I think from the time I've come to Davis, I learned a lot about the game.
All right, so question for all of you. Which team are you always fired up to play? Tanner.
Weber State.
Why is that?
We just have personal reasons for it, and we love going against Weber every year. Love competing against them.
All right, there you go. What about for you, Elijah?
Weber State.
And why? You guys have to give me a reason.
It's one of those true rivalry games. It feels like something personal, so it's always Weber State.
All right, Alonzo, what about for you?
It's probably usually Sac State or Cal Poly. Those are our traditional games, and those are our rivals. So I think we get a little bit more juice when we're getting ready to play those two teams.
So another question for all of you. What is the greatest lesson you've learned while playing college football so far? Tanner, we'll start with you.
Kind of like Elijah said earlier, it's not many people get to play the game, and so it's truly a blessing to be able to step out in the field for every year as long as you're healthy. And I think just taking advantage of the opportunity and really coming back, seeing the perspective that this is something that's very it's just not very likely for other people to be able to do it. And so just stepping out every single day and knowing that it can be hard and it can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's just really fun to play the game and you got to take advantage of it.
Elijah, what about you? The greatest lesson you've learned while playing college football?
Back to what I said and back to what Tanner emphasized on, it's really a blessing to play because really it's just that you have those days where you really don't feel like doing it, but at the same time, it's I actually get to do this, It's I don't have to do it, I get to do it. And it's a blessing to be able to put yourself in an opportunity that other people didn't have the chance to.
Absolutely. Alonzo, what's the greatest lesson you've learned?
Yeah, I'll agree with both of them. But I think football taught me a lot about dealing with that adversity and kind of pushing through the hard times that you have, whether that's an injury or, even not being able to have a season this year, which many of us kind of worry about. But I feel like football's definitely taught me how to push forward and keep it moving.
Now, I know Tanner and Elijah, you both alluded to this, but what advice do you have for younger players? And Tanner, we can start with you.
Yeah, just knowing that it's a different level when you get to college. It's not like high school at all. And so you got to get here and just be ready to work. Take advantage of it. Not many people get to do it. and just preserve the longevity of the sport. Just enjoy what you're doing, but also work hard at it and work for your teammates.
Alonzo, what advice do you have?
I'll kind of say just, like kind of like what Tanner said, that it's a different level, it's a different speed, definitely. But at the same time, it's football, and I think the most important part is just to have fun. Know that this is a game, and that playing college football is going to be one of the most exciting times of your life. You get to meet a lot of people, meet great people, and take advantage of the opportunity that you have.
Elijah, what advice do you have for younger players?
I would say the same. Just enjoy your time playing college football, but they have to understand, to thrive at this level, you have to understand the game. You have to have knowledge of the game. So you have to understand your reads. You got to understand the coverages. You have to understand all this stuff, because in high school, everything was about getting to the edge and scoring, or just backing up and catching an interception for defensive guys. You know what I'm saying? But now in college, you have to understand the leverages, the reads, and all that stuff to actually get to where you want to get to. It's more straightforward than it is, East and West.
Now, for each of you, what's the best part about playing your position? Tanner.
Wide receiver is kind of like the star position. They're the guys who are normally the playmakers, and you get to see them go run and catch the ball and hopefully score. And they're just like the player that kids always want to be. Every kid wants to be a wide receiver at some point, and so it's just really cool just to go out there and just run around and just play catch with your quarterback. So it's just a lot of fun.
Elijah, what's your favorite part of playing your position?
For me, I would say based off of the program is I could do both. I could actually run routes and I could run the ball as well. And Coach Taylor, he allows us to, allow us to be special with our game. So I kind of appreciate that.
Alonzo, what about for you?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Elijah. Just being able to be versatile, whether that's getting in the empty set and running a route, or getting handed off the ball and running the ball. Being a running back, you have to be versatile. You also have to block. So, I think that's what I like the most about playing running back is the versatility.
Tanner, what's your favorite thing about being a Bengal?
I think ISU represents a lot of potential. I think they take in a lot of athletes who may not be seen by other schools, but they can see potential in them, and they're able to grow them as athletes and as people. And for football as men, I think ISU has developed me most as a man. I think they focus on that and just developing us as persons more than just athletes. And that's what I really like about being a Bengal.
Elijah, what's your favorite thing about being a Hornet?
The culture and the camaraderie with the players. You learn a lot from the guys that are around you in the locker room. And you just actually build a relationship with everyone. And that ultimately just brings out a brotherhood, and that you can take on forever, after college. That's probably my favorite part about being a Hornet.
And Alonzo, what do you love most about UC Davis?
I'll have to say the culture also. The culture is different compared to, I feel like, compared to what I've experienced in the past. I just feel like it brings the camaraderie with the other guys and really shows you how much you're loved by other athletes in the past or currently or whatever it may be. But I feel like having Aggie pride is something special.
Now, you all are talking about your teams and the culture. How have you been able to stay in touch with your team during this time? Tanner, we'll start with you.
Doing what we're doing right now, having Zoom calls, meetings with the position groups, reaching out to guys with group DMs and stuff like that, getting together to throw routes and stuff, just stay in touch as best we can, usually through our phones. But that's the best you can do, as being safe as possible.
Elijah, what about for you and your team?
Call of Duty and Zoom meetings, and of course FaceTimes and all that stuff.
There we go. That's a creative way, Call of Duty. Is that something that you'd be doing if it wasn't this time, or is this something new?
No, I've always been sort of a gamer, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of something that I do with my free time.
Okay, there you go. Is Call of Duty your go-to?
Yes,
Okay.
Definitely.
There we go. Alonzo, what about for you? Have you stayed in touch with your team during this time?
Yeah, just checking up on everybody, really staying tapped in with everybody. Zoom meeting calls, games, like Elijah said. Yeah, pretty much.
What's your go-to? Are you a Call of Duty guy too?
I am a Call of Duty guy too. Yeah.
Okay, Tanner, what about you? Are you a gamer at all?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Modern Warfare.
Okay, there we go. So
Warzone.
now it is time to answer some more relaxed questions. So we'll start with this one. Who has the best uniforms in the Big Sky? Alonso, we'll start with you.
I don't know. There's a lot of – I don't know. My favorite color is red. But besides UC Davis's, obviously, I'd have to say I'd have to say maybe Eastern Washington. I might get in trouble for saying that, but I do like their uniforms.
Okay, we love the honesty here. Tanner, what about you? Best uniforms in the Big Sky?
Yeah, I don't know. I just like any uniform that's blackout, so I love our home blackout jerseys. Those got to be my favorite. Most schools do it pretty well too, but obviously I have a special place for our blackout jerseys, so I have to go with that.
Elijah.
Yeah, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but we got pretty versatile this year. You know, we had a little bit of mix-ups, and I would say, like Tanner said, our blackout uniforms are pretty nice. So I have to go with us.
All right. So where is your favorite place to play? Alonso, we'll go with you first.
Not Eastern Washington, I can tell you that. Not Eastern Washington for sure. I would have to say back home at UC Davis. I feel like we have a beautiful stadium. We have crazy fans. I know a lot of people might not like it because they say it's hot, especially coming from, somewhere like Idaho or somewhere else over there. But I like Davis Stadium for sure.
All right, Tanner, your favorite place to play?
Yeah, same thing. I love playing at home. You have really devoted fans here, a lot of crazy fans, which is fun to see. But kind of go back to that dome question. Playing in a dome is just super nice to play in.
Elijah?
Montana, because it's very packed and crowded, and the noise level is outrageous. That's probably a nice place to play.
All right. Now, who in the Big Sky has the coolest mascot? Alonso.
I don't know. Trying to think. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Gun Rock. I'm gonna have to go with the Aggies.
Yeah.
That horse, that Gun Rock.
All right, Tanner.
Not the Vandals, that's for sure. I don't really know what a Vandal is. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go the Bengals. Any of the Bengals, a dope mascot, and a Bengals animal is pretty fierce. So I'm gonna go home.
All right, there we go. Elijah.
I'm gonna stay at home with the Stinger with this one.
Okay. All right, who has the most interesting fan base? Tanner.
Oh, it's gotta be Montana. Sit on the sidelines, they're right over top of you, and their fans will say all sorts of stuff to you. It can be really interesting, very entertaining, especially on the bench, listen to them. So I have to go with Montana on that one.
Elijah?
It's a tie between Montana and Weber because they do say some interesting things.
Alonso?
I'd have to agree. Montana. I mean, even before we even got into the stadium, we were on the bus, and they were kind of yelling stuff at us, which was kind of cool. But yeah, definitely Montana.
All right. Now, who is the best or most dynamic player in the conference you've gone up against? Elijah.
We're speaking defensively, correct? Because
whatever you want to say.
I would have to say Montana's linebacker, number 33. He was all over on their defense. He was everywhere for sure. Him.
All right, Tanner.
Yeah, I think we'll go with Dante Olson from Montana. The dude was a freak athlete and a very good player.
Alonso.
Yeah, as a running back, I definitely seen Dante Olson a lot from Montana. So I would also have to say him.
All right, so last question for you all. Which team do you enjoy beating the most? Alonso, you can go first.
I haven't done it yet since I've got here, but Eastern Washington will be the best, probably.
All right, Elijah.
For the 3 going on 4 years, I haven't done it yet. Weaver. So I want to be able to beat them, but we'll see.
All right, and Tanner.
Idaho. Got to show them how the rivalry works, so got to go with Idaho.
All right, there you go. Well, thank you, Tanner, Alonzo, and Elijah for joining me on the Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. It is always a pleasure.
Thank you.